Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Yankee and the Brit. That's Jay. I'm Matty, and we've got another Week 17 preview show for you. We are going on to talk about the Dallas Cowboys and their unfortunate loss against the Dolphins. We're going to have a chat about the Eagles and the Giants, and of course, that massive game between the 49ers and the Ravens. Obviously, the Chiefs losing out to the Raiders as well. Not great for them. And then we'll go into previewing our Week 17, and we'll go on with the picks, because last time we had so much fun with this 2-hour show. I've decided we're going to do it again. Obviously, we're getting everything set up on Instagram now. If you're on YouTube, please do like and subscribe. We have just hit the 600 subscribers mark on YouTube, so thank you to you all for that. If you're on Facebook, give us a like, give us a share, all of that kind of thing. And if you're watching through Instagram, which I believe is now all set up, then send up all the emojis and all of that kind of stuff, and share it, and put some comments below. We love to hear all of your comments, guys.
Thanks, Maddie, because Instagram's making this a little weird to go live lately, and it gets a nice echo until I get it muted. So I think they got some kinks to iron out with them being linked to StreamYard now, but they'll get there.
Yeah, it'll be great. And I'm going to start scripting out those beginnings so that we're ready to go. Now that we know the time.
2 seconds before we go on, I go, "Hey, Maddie, I need you to do this." So like he got zero warning. Like
I'll script out the beginnings next time. But yeah, let's get on with the show now that we are live on Instagram.
Yeah, and doing it. This is our last show of the year.
Yeah, this will be our last show of the year because we're doing the recap of Week 16 and Week 17 going up, and obviously Week 17 goes on over to it starts tonight, but it goes on over New Year's Eve. A good year for us as a platform, a pretty crazy year where we've got an Instagram and it's up to however many thousand followers now, and obviously the YouTube is rising in subscribers. So thank you to everybody, and we really appreciate you, and thank you for making this year really special for us.
So yeah, and going into this next year, I focused the last few months building up some Instagram, so that blew me away how fast that blew up. It just couldn't have imagined. It's over 60,000. I couldn't have imagined that. So you guys are awesome. Next year, I'm going to put some more time into X, Twitter. I hate that. And Threads. I'm going to put some extra time and see what happens there to build those up. But yeah, it's really weird. I don't know much. I don't go on Twitter and I don't go on Threads, but it almost seems to me like one's become the left-wing version and one's become the right-wing version. But I could give a fuck about either wing, so I'm just going to try to see what happens with both of them.
Yeah, I don't know about the left wing because I don't use them. What's always funny about this show, guys, is you've got to realize that me and Jay aren't we basically just one day started talking about football on this platform, and now we're starting to try and actually learn how everything works in terms of growing views on everything. So we're not really big social media people or anything. So seeing the Instagram,
our biggest mistake was the first year is we were focused on Facebook, which if you're a content creator is the worst platform to be focused on.
Yeah, well, we all learn. We all live and learn.
Yeah, and quick shout out to Overtime Hustling just for their 10-year anniversary. Shout out to you guys, 10 years. That's an amazing feat. So that's pretty awesome. And they have a big event going on in California in March to celebrate their 10-year anniversary, and they're doing a concert and everything. And I don't know yet, but I might be out there for that. So just shout out OTH for making it 10 years. I think it's baffling that you and I are coming up on 3 years, let alone 10.
Yeah, that's what I find really crazy. That it's been, because I was talking to about it with my partner today, and we were talking about how it's been 3 years since we started this thing. Because what is it? Playoffs, Tom Brady's first win with the Bucks, his Super Bowl with the Bucks, which was 3 years ago as well. That feels like longer, but this feels like shorter. So
yeah, it's weird because I think week 1 of the playoffs will be 3 years for us. I don't know the exact date, but if we're going from the football schedule, it's pretty wild. Me and you were just going to do those playoffs. So who would have thought 3 years later, here we are.
Yeah, pretty crazy, pretty crazy times, and a pretty crazy week of football, obviously, which has been a pretty crazy season of football for anybody trying to do any betting this year. Like, you've either made it massive, or you're in and out, and you're not really sure what's going on, because this year has been absolutely wild, and this week was a great show of how wild it's been.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, it's been ups and downs with the over on, or I mean the point spreads, right? Like, because I think the Vikings have covered almost every point spread this year, and the Lions covered like all but 2 of their games. And like, it's really weird because certain teams, they'll still get the win or the loss, but they're always covering the point spread. And then I think it's the Ravens who has like made the point spread look fucking stupid all year. So yeah, it's pretty wild in that sense.
Well, I think the point spread has been, we can move on to the Ravens 49ers game, because that was the big marquee game of the weekend. Obviously didn't kind of work out that way, but I think the Ravens have been disrespected all year. They've gone a bit under the radar. They've still got which is strange when you've got an MVP a former MVP at quarterback, an all-time coach who's going to go into the Hall of Fame. The one thing that we've wanted for Lamar Jackson since he's been a Raven is a decent wide receiver core. Well, he's got that now. Obviously, they have one of the best tight ends in the league who is unfortunately injured, but Isaiah Likely is also looking like a great tight end as well. A decent but not stellar running back and a good offensive line. And always the Ravens defense plays hard and is excellent. They've got that AFC North.
They're the number 1 defense right now in the NFL.
Yeah, they're a crazy defense. And this is the first time the 49ers have looked like they've been slowed down when they're all healthy. When they're all healthy, obviously, the Vikings also gave them a lot of trouble as well. But yeah, they were able to slow them down. And the point spread was 5.5. That was a no-brainer point spread to take the Ravens in that one for both of us, even though I picked the 49ers to win and you picked the Ravens to win, which,
hey, but if you
congratulations, by the way.
If you were cashing in that ticket, it wouldn't matter because a win's a win, right? So
a win's a win, yep. Win's a win.
Yeah, let's talk about that game, though. So I'm just as guilty as everybody else of, like, we talked about how the Ravens are good, but I didn't give them the credit on how good they were until 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And last week, I finally said I think they're the best team in the AFC. Like, it took me that long to come around. So I get how the casual fan, and again, I don't say casual in a negative way like a lot of people do, because I'm a casual fan of a lot of sports. So, you know what I mean? I'm a casual fan of basketball. I don't know basketball, so it's not a shot. But the casual fan, because they're not on primetime, hasn't gotten the idea of how good the Ravens actually are.
Yeah, I think flying under the radar is kind of what the Ravens want. That's like what their organization kind of wants. Yeah, up there in Baltimore. Like, the Cowboys can never be under the radar. The Eagles, due to their fan base, are never under the radar. The 49ers, due to their history, never under the radar if they're playing well and if they're playing badly. It's what everybody talks about for a lot of NFC stuff going on there. But if the Colts are playing well, everybody talks about the Colts because of their owner. The Ravens, they got into the playoffs last year, or did they get into the playoffs? They missed by 1 game last year without Lamar Jackson playing.
They made it, and Huntley had to start that playoff game.
Huntley was starting because we all thought Lamar would come out of the woodwork to play in the playoffs, but he still didn't play. And the Ravens made it in the playoffs last year, and I felt like we didn't hear anything about them apart from Lamar Jackson stopped playing. And this year they've been fantastic. Number 1 seed in the AFC, probably the best, look like the best team in the NFL this week. And their defense is what they're relying on. But is it because Lamar Jackson isn't like the entire star of the show, like the star of that offense? Is it Lamar Jackson is able to now play offense like an actual quarterback who has all of his weapons, a good offensive system, and he doesn't have to make Houdini plays the entire time. He doesn't have the same stats as his MVP year, the same production, but he's having just as big of an effect on this team, in my opinion. Is that the reason that they've gone under the radar for so long? Because I picked them to win the Super Bowl.
Well, I think with Lamar, I think a lot of times too, if Lamar's not doing something like athletically spectacular, people don't give him the credit. But just even in this last game, it was the most middle of the road but perfect game you could have. He went 23 of 35 for 252, 2 touchdowns, but he ran for 45 yards too. But they got so many other players like him and Zay Flowers. I mean, he connected with Zay Flowers 9 fucking times in that game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, you and I were talking about it early in the year, like wait till Zay gets healthy. Like, people don't realize it. I mean, Likely has played really well since Andrews went down. And even now they're talking he might be back for the playoffs. So him and Likely on the same team playing. It's big for them. And if you think about it, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Lamar completed passes to 8 different fucking people in that game.
Yeah, so Lamar Jackson has this weird thing when you watch him. If you sit down and you watch him like a decent amount, he has this weird thing where he kind of locks in on one guy the entire game. So you don't realize that he's actually spreading the ball out to everybody. So it's usually Andrews has between 7 and 15 receptions in a game, like something crazy. But then they're actually giving it out to everybody else. And that's the system of screens. But it's also with OBJ making good plays one-on-one down the field. It's also Zay Flowers making big plays. Obviously, Zay Flowers has become that reliable target for him now from the slot and over the middle. They also have players like they were also missing Keaton Mitchell in this game, who is their big playability guy at running back. But he'll be back. Oh, no, he won't be back. He's completely destroyed his ACL. But without him, they still look like they had a semblance of a running game. They still were able to get enough done in the run game. Lamar Jackson takes those 3-yard runs, those 4-yard runs. It doesn't all have to be massive Lamar Jackson anymore in this system. He doesn't have to burst out a 30-yard touchdown run where he, like the one that he did against the Bengals that one year where he spanned 2 people out and they ended up tackling each other on his way to the end zone, which was incredible. But this Ravens team they play the game in a way that makes their defense better when they're playing on offense, and they play defense in a way that makes their offense better. It's complementary football as its essence, and Lamar Jackson embodies that, and I think he's playing great this season. I don't think he's the MVP, like he's now the front runner
I do.
to be, but I don't think he's the MVP, and that's just due to our chat last week of how the MVP award is ridiculous in the NFL. Anyway, I still think Christian McCaffrey has a bigger impact on his team than Lamar Jackson does.
So I don't necessarily disagree with your theory, but JJ Watt made a good point. The most valuable player is always going to be a quarterback, always, because they're the most valuable. And if you take McCaffrey off that team and you put another decent running back, they might not have the same yards, but they're still really good. You take an average quarterback and put them on the Ravens, they're not as good as they are right now.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment.
Nelson Aguilar stepped up, which is pretty impressive over there. I think Lamar's the MVP, but that's just me. I think Dak and Purdy both shot themselves in winning that thing.
Yeah, done now.
So, and again, this wasn't necessarily Dak's fault. I just don't think the writers love Dak enough to give Dak that kind of love. Like when you were a 4th round underpaid quarterback, they loved you. When you're the highest paid player in the NFL, they hated you. It's an odd thing for Lamar or for Dak, but it is true,
Due to Brock Purdy's physical makeup and the team that is assembled around him, and due to Dak's contract and the fact that he's the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys doesn't help.
Here we go.
Those two both have to be perfect all year to win the MVP. Like other people can make mistakes, but those two both have to be perfect. And Brock Purdy did not have the perfect game. He didn't even have a good game in that Ravens game. Part of this is the 4 interceptions. 2 of those are really bad. The throw to Kyle Hamilton in the end zone, and then I can't remember who the other one was, but it was just a shocking pass. 2 of them they pop up in the air, and most of the time they hit the deck, right? Most of the time they hit the ground. But this Ravens team obviously work really hard in the pop-up drill where it pops up in the air and go make the play.
I forget who did it, but that Ravens linebacker tipped it right to the other guy. Like, that was intentional.
Yeah.
Like, so that wasn't just one of those fluke accidents, but it happens to every quarterback, right? Where, like, we watch Nick Mullins, look, we'll get to it, but throw 4 picks, and you could argue 2 of those aren't his fault, but that's every quarterback has that. And just because it gets deflected doesn't mean it's not the quarterback's fault, because the one play with Purdy getting deflected, he should have never threw that fucking ball.
Yeah. Brock Purdy didn't have a good game. And that's basically shot him in the foot for MVP. Because now
I hate this narrative though that Brock Purdy sucks because he had one bad game. Like, every quarterback has a fucking shit game at some point, you know?
Yeah. Brock Purdy doesn't suck. He had a bad game against the best defense in the NFL. The 49ers are also still the best team in the NFC. The Ravens now have a 20-1 record in their last 21 games against the NFC now. So there is part of that where the Ravens seem to just play really well against the NFC. The first time you come up against the Ravens, you seem to not be able to play against them. So if this is the Super Bowl matchup, which I think it will if the 49ers stay healthy, which is another big if, but I think it will, then it'll be interesting to see the 49ers readjustments in the Super Bowl. But Brock Purdy didn't have a great game. And the one thing you can't do in this 49ers offense is throw interceptions. That's the one thing you can't do. All the rest of it, like, he could have a shitty game of yardage. He could have a shitty. Don't shorten the field. Don't shorten the field. Don't give possessions away, because Shanahan will scheme some easy shit open for you if you're just having a generally bad day. But don't throw interceptions, because that's the only way that you allow other teams to remain in the game. Another narrative on this is the 49ers can't really come from behind. It's a thing that's used against teams that always play from out in front. I understand that, but not a lot of teams can come back from a 10-point deficit in the fourth quarter. Like, the 49ers under Mike Shanahan are the only team in that time period since Mike Shanahan took over to, if they are more than 8 points behind in the fourth quarter, they've never won a game from there. If they're 4 points behind if they're 8 points behind in the fourth quarter since Mike Shanahan's taken over, which is interesting, but most of the other teams have only done it once as well. So
it takes a special kind of coach to bring you from 33 down at half to come back and win a game. I'm just, Kevin O'Connell.
The Vikings have done it. The Vikings have done it a couple of times with Kirk Cousins.
Well, and they almost did it a couple times without Kirk Cousins this year, which actually nailed home my point on how important Kirk is, or any quarterback is, to your team. Yeah. Because usually, we'll get to it with the Browns, but usually when your backup's in, you're in trouble to begin with. I think this is going to be a sneaky playoffs. I don't disagree that those absolutely could be the 2 teams in the Super Bowl. But I think if you look at both sides, there's a handful of teams that could beat any team in the playoffs on any given day. Like, I think the 49ers could get beat by the Cowboys. I think they could get beat by the Eagles. I mean, like, if they played 10 times, yes, the 49ers would probably win 7 of those games. But don't forget that these are really top-heavy teams that can put up points if they're given the right opportunity. And people I think we're really in a spot where people are just assuming. And I think the AFC is even more, because people are counting out the Chiefs, which I get because of how they're playing, but they're still the Chiefs. So it just takes one day for them to click to send somebody home who shouldn't be going home. You know what I mean?
The AFC is total chaos. I think the 49ers biggest issue team right now, because I think the Cowboys are better than the team I'm about to mention, and the Eagles are,
Better
if they
than the
get some
Cowboys.
no, but anyway, if the Eagles may be better than this team, but the Cowboys are an awful matchup for the 49ers are an awful matchup for the Cowboys. I think we'll get blown out by the 49ers when we play them. The Rams, however, I think the Rams are actually the biggest worry for the 49ers right now, just in terms of matchup. I think that's an interesting matchup there for the Rams there to play the 49ers. They're the biggest worry for the 49ers in the playoffs for me. For the Ravens, it's the Bills can get hot whenever they want to. The Chiefs can get hot whenever they want to. Who's probably going to make it in the AFC? Well, the Browns can have this defense that does whatever the fuck it likes, as long as they've got a quarterback that can actually pass the ball. They do pretty well with obviously Amari Cooper having big games as well. We've alluded to it a couple of times, so let's move off this 49ers-Ravens game because, yeah.
So, and we're moving on to the Browns, but this is the most random question, but question. So, odds of this happening are slim, but if you're the Browns and Joe Flacco comes in because he's known as Joey January, right? So, Joe Flacco gets you to who he's coming off the couch, balling out of control. Him and Amari Cooper just went the fuck off. And they win a Super Bowl. What do you do? What do you do if you win a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco, but you have Deshaun Watson guaranteed $235 million?
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously, if they hadn't strapped themselves, this is the worst contract in the history of the NFL. So we won't get a chance to talk about Russell. Oh no, we will get a chance in the preview bit of the show. But Russell Wilson is also up there in terms of the worst trade and the worst. It's more the contract extension of Russell Wilson that's the problem. Then
they just.
I didn't hate the trade itself. But the with Deshaun Watson, you're kind of stuck with him. And if Joe Flacco wants to play, I think they've captured lightning in a bottle with Joe Flacco a bit here, where they've got him coming off the couch, where he's had time to rest. He's obviously he's always been like this quarterback who can dissect defenses pretty well, and as long as his physical ability was keeping up with him, then he's fine. But I would still have to go with Deshaun. No, Deshaun's washed. I don't like either option personally. I would keep Joe Flacco.
They would fucking
play Deshaun Watson.
The fans would lose their fucking mind if Joe Flacco wins him a Super Bowl and you don't start him. But with what you owe Deshaun, what do you do? And the only way you can trade Deshaun is if you agree to eat most of that contract.
Yeah. So, okay. I guess the question is, you're on the line for that money, whether on whatever. Like, you're on the line for that money, whatever. You may as well give yourself the best opportunity to win, which unfortunately is not with the person who's earning that money on the roster. So you get rid of Deshaun. I
blame a lot of this on the coaching staff. I blame a lot of what's going on with Deshaun on the coaching staff. I do, because there's games where you still see Deshaun's talent and what he's got going on. I don't think Kevin Stefanski is working the game plan around him as well as he should be. And we just talked about this with who the fuck was it that we were just talking the other day? Oh, the Bengals. Why aren't you coaching this good when Joe Burrow's healthy? Why aren't you coaching this good when Deshaun Watson is there? And do I think Deshaun Watson is still what he was in Houston? No. And if it wasn't for the off-field shit and you're willing to eat a lot of that contract, I'd be like, send him to Minnesota with KOC. Send him to San Francisco with Shanahan, or send him to anywhere. Like, if they didn't have Anthony Richardson already, send him to the Colts. Like that. Those are the type of coaches, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like these coaches get away with, we have this really talented guy, so I don't have to coach as hard. And it might be subliminal. I don't think they think it that way, right? But then Joe Flacco comes in, or fucking Browning comes in, and now they really have to coach, and they're showing that you can really fucking coach. Why aren't you doing this when you have these elite guys like Joe Burrow or whatever in the game? I blame some of this on Stefanski, because we were blaming the Browns' offensive line for a lot of shit, but Joe Flacco is a fucking statue.
Yes. Jeff Flacco doesn't move. Like,
he moves a lot worse than Kirk Cousins, okay? Like, Cousins isn't very athletic. So
yeah, like Deshaun Watson can move. Joe Flacco just doesn't move at all. Like, you're right. Total statue doesn't move at all. So it can't have been the Browns. It can't have been the Browns' offensive line. Nick Chubb also isn't there. Like, they also don't have their
fantasy team know it.
Yeah, they also don't have their star running back there either. And the Browns, and Flacco is playing, like, look, Flacco's playing total lights out ball. Does Joe Flacco still throw a few turnover worthy plays that are absolutely outrageously bad, at least one a game? Yes, of course he does. But the Browns also have one of the best defenses in the league. They have Amari Cooper
throw one of the best balls you've ever seen thrown, though, in the NFL history, and he does. It is pretty.
Yeah. Weirdly, now that he's been sat on the couch for long enough, I agree with you on the way he throws the ball as well. Because when he was starting in Denver, he didn't look like that.
Now he said something that made me wonder. He said something to the fact, and I'm paraphrasing, that my shoulder finally got time to heal. So was he in New York playing with something wrong? Because he's not the type to come out and make excuses. He doesn't talk to the media much.
I think so.
He's not a very he doesn't want to be in the spotlight. He is not that guy who was like, look at me, right? That's just not Joe Flacco. So was there more to what was going on than we know? Because he does look, a year and a half later, look so much better than he did. And that's not usually how Father Time works.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. I think that's given him a big step up. Shout out to the Texans in this game as well, because
why the fuck didn't my Vikings go sign Flacco? Fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, I mean,
nobody knew, but like, fuck. This is a guy who literally called the Jets and was like, hey, Aaron went down. If you need somebody, they're like, Joe, you've been here, you know the team, but no thanks, right? We're going to go with Zach Wilson. And that was a bad mistake. The only thing I can think of is when Aaron Rodgers is your starting quarterback going into next year and all of that, do you bring in another Super Bowl winning quarterback to, like, I think that might have been some weird overthinking by the Jets.
Yeah. I think also with Joe Flacco, though, to this point, with Joe Flacco, he's not really seen as a Super Bowl winning quarterback, right? Like, I know he's won a Super Bowl, but he's not. He has the same amount of Super Bowls as Aaron Rodgers, by the way. But he's not seen as this Super Bowl winning quarterback because of the team he was in, where it's that Ravens team that he went with. I feel like people forget that he's won a Super Bowl quite a lot of the time, which is
because of Ray Lewis. They forget how well he played in January too.
Yeah, and he's in that kind of team now where you've got Myles Garrett, you've got that Browns defensive line, and just the defense in general is is incredible. Like, they have a really well put together defense, but they also have a really well put together offense. Obviously, Amari Cooper stat line, 11 receptions, 265 yards for 2 touchdowns. 265 yards for Amari Cooper.
I have him on one of my fantasy teams. And I played him and was like, and I actually was debating not playing him. So I got very lucky because he had like almost, what did he have, 50 points? I don't remember. It was a fucking insanity.
57.2, I think.
Yeah, it was pure insanity. Like, he was like half of what I needed to win.
That was college football. That was college football Amari Cooper. That was Amari Cooper from college, and he hasn't looked like he has great games to the Cowboys, hitting 100 yards all the time, runs great routes and all of those kind of things. But games like that, 265 yards, we haven't seen that from Amari Cooper since college, and he looked excellent this week. And I would give anything for Amari Cooper to be a Dallas Cowboy still.
I think I saw a stat where he's only the 5th player in the NFL to have 3 games over 200 yards in his career.
Yeah. He's an interesting wide receiver, Amari Cooper, right? Because he's not the showy guy, but he has all the talent that you need. He runs a perfect route, very quarterback friendly. And then you kind of forget about him for a bit, and then you just remember that he's easily one of the top 10 wide receivers in the NFL.
And he's like Joe Flacco in the sense that he's not a media guy. He's not a look at me guy. He is not trying to be all up in like TV and all that shit. He just wants to play football, I think.
I think Cleveland might be a perfect place for Amari Cooper because you saw him in the Raiders. They're a big, showy organization. They're always on the cameras as an organization a lot of the time. Like we see a lot of Raiders football. Obviously at the Cowboys, like they're the team on the cameras all of the time. If you're the number 1 wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys, people want to know what's going on. Jerry Jones isn't happy that you're not wearing the number 88. Like Jerry Jones wants you to do more interviews. You need to be more showy. You need to represent the star on your helmet and all of that kind of stuff. That doesn't suit Amari Cooper. I think he's very happy in Cleveland, away from the spotlight, dealing with the Cleveland media. Like, seems great. I would love him to be a Cowboy, though. I'd give anything for him to still be a Cowboy. A 5th round pick for Amari Cooper.
All right, let's touch on that Lions-Vikings game pretty quick. The only thing, Vikings making the move to this week, they're going to go with Jaron Hall over Mullins, who in 2 games threw for almost 800 yards, but 7 turnovers, 4 in the last game. They had a chance to win every game he's played, but somehow he fucked the dog on every one of them. So I get why they're moving on. But so you asked before the pod, what do I think the Vikings' goal? Is it to make the playoffs or is it get to the higher draft pick? The coaches and every player, their goal is to make the playoffs. The front office probably secretly is like, if we lose these last 2 games, we could be drafting around 10, 11, 12. I personally will never cheer against them, but I really want Jaden Daniels more than anything on this planet. I want Jaden Daniels. So, like, and I'm like, fuck, the farther you go back, the harder it is to trade up. And they're going to have to trade up to number 2 to get Jaden Daniels. So,
you think as high as 2?
Oh, I think somebody's going to be fucking stupid and not draft him number 1 overall. They're going to make the biggest mistake of their their organization's career. They're going to go with the talking heads, and they're all going to ride their train to USC. That's what I think. And I've been saying it, Caleb Williams is not as good as everybody thinks he is. He's surrounded with a ton of talent and still shits the bed against any decent defense in college.
Sorry, just checking.
No worries. I don't think he's the number 1 quarterback. And I think people still are going to take him as, I think Jaden Daniels is Lamar Jackson, but more accurate.
Yeah, I can definitely see that from Jaden Daniels. I think he's obviously an excellent prospect at quarterback. I think like if you do the process right, you probably could wait at 10 for him. Like just because of the media hype. And Drake May's probably going above him.
3 to 4 quarterbacks are going in that top 10.
Yeah. You know, it could be Jaden Daniels makes it down to 10. But
I think by the time the draft comes, there's going to be more people arguing that he should be number 1 than people think.
Yeah, perhaps. Is Penix coming out this year?
I don't know yet.
I can't see if he's coming out either. Here you go.
I do know that
he hasn't said. Yeah.
I watched Jaden Daniels though, and I see Lamar, but more accurate.
Yeah, would you take because you could have Penix at 10. But anyway, back
I
into
wouldn't
the
I wouldn't
conversation.
cry with Penix or even Bo Nix, but like I think that Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in this draft.
Yeah, this is, by the way, this is a statement from Jay of like letting him sit for a year behind Kirk and everything. Not like
Yeah,
you still have Kirk next
I'm
year.
not
Right?
a fan of starting a guy right away. So I even say
Yeah,
2 years. Like extend
yeah,
Kirk for 2 years, bring in a young guy, let him learn the NFL, let him learn KOC's offense, and then
yeah,
tell me that a guy like him would not fit perfect in a Shanahan, KOC, fucking McVay offense.
yeah. Imagine if Kirk Cousins could run, right? Like
Right, yeah.
that's how crazy would that offense look. Yeah. With me, obviously, I think it's a great statement to get to the playoffs if you're the Vikings, right? It's how what's your percentage of getting to the playoffs at the moment? Do you know?
Every other year we go to the playoffs in Minnesota since Mike Zimmer.
Yeah, I meant this. Like, what year is the percentage? Like,
This
what's the
year,
chances? Do you know?
I think
I don't know.
Kornacki was saying something like 46% or something like that when I was
Yes,
watching
it's
the
that
video.
I was surprised as to how close you still are into getting to the playoffs, which is great on your coaching staff. By
For
the
some
way,
reason, I think if we beat the Packers and the Seahawks lose, we're in.
yeah, you're honestly your coach. You might have the best coaching staff in the league if you take offensive coordinator and head coach, and then put up that with Brian Flores. You may have the best coaching staff in the league. Like it's pretty clear. Obviously, Sean McVay and the Rams are down there as well. Hardball's Ravens and stuff, great coaching staff. The 49ers, Shanahan and everything. But the Vikings as a combo together, KOC and Brian Flores and the job that they've done has been fantastic. And look, if you get to the playoffs, that's a great achievement. But for the actual future of the football team, it'd be so much better if you lost these 2 games. It'd be so much better. Like,
Now, I'm eternally optimistic until kickoff because you know me, 6 minutes into a game, I will text you, fuck this, it's over. I'm so pissed off. Like,
it's finished.
but let Jaron Hall come in and like go on a Cinderella run and win us a Super Bowl. Fuck, I'm all for that. But
Yeah.
the odds of
Yeah.
that happening, right? So I
Yeah.
get it. But maybe it is the right thing to start Jaron Hall, even though I don't like starting quarterbacks in their first year. So you know if you should draft somebody again next year, or does Jaron Hall ball out and then we're like, well, we don't even need to re-sign Kirk. Like, so.
Yeah. I'm interested on the philosophy of I really like Jaron Hall. I think it's the right move to do it. Nick Mullins throwing, he didn't only just throw for what was it, 7
Yeah, he threw
turnover.
400 yards last time and 300 and something the game before.
Yeah, and that amount of he didn't have just that amount of turnovers. It wasn't just that. It was he also had 7 turnover worthy plays according to PFF last
I don't
week as
disagree
well.
with that, but I could argue that if you go through any multiple interception game by a quarterback, they're going to be like, "Oh, they dropped a couple too."
Yeah, so I'm interested as to the philosophy of backup quarterbacking now. Is what has got to me. So I like Jaron Hall. I'm excited to see what he
It
does.
does hurt.
I want to see
TJ
what he does in the
Hawkinson
last
is
2
out
weeks.
for the year.
Yeah,
that hurts.
Yeah, that would be a nice blanket for Jaron Hall as well to throw to. But he's still got JJ. He's still got John Nance. Like it's not like the Vikings don't have a wealth of riches on wide receiver as well.
And I'm pretty sure if we're just talking about moving forward, and it hurts me, you know this is going to hurt me. It's time to move on from Madison. Just let him walk away.
Yeah,
because Ty Chandler's our running back.
Ty Chandler's the running back, and you draft somebody else as well in the
And Ty Chandler
third,
is
fourth,
fucking
fifth.
explosive. Like people don't get I don't even think Vikings fans understood how fast he was until a few games this year, and he hits that hole. There was one like 40-yard run he hit. It got called back for a holding, but it just made the whole Vikings world go, "Oh shit!" Because he hit the hole and was gone so fast. Like I really think Ty Chandler is the future of the Vikings at running back.
Yeah, and then there's a few, like you could pick up a guy like Blake Corum in the mid third
I
round.
like Kane. I like our backups too, but if they did
Yeah,
pick somebody up, I wouldn't be mad at them. But you don't have to waste a high draft pick. Where
yeah.
going into before Chai started, I thought the Vikings were definitely going to have to draft a quarterback, and now I'm like, okay, that's one less position they have to draft.
Yeah, I don't think there's a big thing of like there's not enough amazing running back talent in this draft class to justify being a high pick. I don't think you should waste high picks on running backs that often anyway. Obviously, there's obvious exceptions to the rule, like Bijan Robinson
Bijan,
and
yeah.
and players like that when they come up. But like Zeke when he first came out, guys like that, like okay, fine, I get that. But most running backs, I don't think there's going to be a running back out of this group drafted until maybe the top of the third, maybe in the second if a team really needs a running back as well. And I think that's a good place for the Vikings to address the third, the fourth, the fifth round, pick up some running backs in there. Blake Corum from Michigan comes to like would be the one that I'd pick for you guys in that third, fourth round. I think would be a great pick for would be a great pick for you, great pickup for you guys. The other interesting point about this, sorry, and the backup quarterback philosophy as well is I just don't get why teams take these interception prone quarterbacks and make them their backup, right? Because yeah, you can catch lightning in a bottle with them. Great, you can catch that, but more often than not, interceptions are what's going to lose you games rather than a few immense plays from your quarterback is going to win you games. If you have a decent defense, if you have good players at wide receiver, just don't throw the fucking ball away. And like Nick Mullins sometimes looks great, but sometimes looks like the only thing he wants to do is throw a ball blindfolded and get that interception.
It's a
Colt
lot to
McCoy's the
do
same.
with experience too, right? So Nick Mullins had a
Yeah.
lot of his starting experience with Shanahan, and before they got Jimmy G. So and then Jimmy G got hurt, and he had to play pretty much that whole first season for Jimmy G too. So they had a lot of experience. So I get that. Also, they didn't expect Kurt. You don't expect Kurt to get hurt. He's never been injured before. Never. In his whole career, never missed. The only game he's ever missed was due to COVID. You know what I mean? So like, he doesn't get hurt, and so nobody, like even I, when he came up limp, was like, oh fuck, I never expect. It never even crossed my mind that Kirk was going to get hurt.
Yeah. So obviously you're not preparing for your backup quarterback to play all of the time, but I really do just think your backup quarterback should be a guy that can come in and just like, is he going to make crazy plays? No.
Well, I know
I'd rather a Davis Mills.
The unwritten rule in the NFL is our backup quarterback should be able to win us 2 out of 4 games if our quarterback goes down.
Yeah, I think I'd rather a Davis Mills kind of stat line from my backup quarterback, though. Like 149 yards, 2 touchdowns. The team scored 22 points, like against the Cleveland Browns.
Too bad, but the Vikings win that game if it wasn't for the refs, and the Panthers win their game if it wasn't for the refs. So
yeah,
they stole the touchdown from the Vikings, and then which gave the Lions a field goal, which is 10-point swing, and Romeo Doubs did not catch that ball, which gave the Packers the win in that game. So that, and how you fuck that up on replay, especially the Romeo Doubs one, the ball literally moved when he hit the fucking ground, and it rolled around his hand. Like these refs have, I don't even want to go off on the refs again.
Yeah.
But just to be fair to Nick Mullins, and I'm not trying to like make excuses for him, the only way they were beating the Lions was in a shootout, and they'd have been better off with Kirk. You know what I mean? But that is what it is.
Most interesting refereeing call this week actually was the safety in the Ravens 49ers game. It's so funny, man.
How do you call
like thank fuck the Ravens won?
That reminds me of last year. If you remember, I lost my mind because
the Vikings, the ref wipes out the Vikings safety.
But he got tackled in that interception. This was even worse. You literally tackled Lamar in the end zone for a safety and the worst back pedal. And I felt bad for the ref because he's thinking that whole game, please do not let this game be
He's like,
decided by 2 or less.
yeah.
Like, please do not let this
Yeah.
fucking. But
That's
as the refs, common sense has to come in, and either you don't call that or they need to change the rule to that's a redo.
That's what it is. I don't. People are blaming the ref for that play, and I'm like, don't blame the ref. Like, the ref is not an athlete. The poor fucking guy's ended up on his ass in the end zone, and then the rule clearly says like it's not a redo. You give it because the same happens with interceptions. Yeah, the same happens with interceptions. If it bounces off the ref and deflects to a defender or an attacker, then the play continues. Like, that's a rule problem, not a ref problem, but they need to sort that rule out as well. But obviously you're not making a lot of rules for ref trips over in the only gap to escape whilst the QB's in the end zone. I would like to know how many times
are we
that's
all
happened.
not smart enough to know that Lamar is athletic enough where he's going to hit the corner and throw that ball out of bounds?
Yeah, Lamar's getting out of that play to the what is it? It was on his left hand side. Lamar's just running off to the left and getting out of there, like,
and throwing the ball away,
throwing the ball. Yeah.
And it's going past the line of scrimmage. And yes, that was a bad fucking play.
But again, that's not a problem from the refs. That's a rule problem. So it's always important to make that a distinction. But yes.
All right, Maddie, I don't want to do it to you, but what happened? What happened with the Cowboys and the Dolphins?
Do you know what? I'm not that disheartened by this game, to be honest, because I think the Cowboys played well enough to win that game. The offense answered questions for me. They then came up with a few other ones. But just while we're just finishing on some ref chat, like, roughing the passer call on Micah Parsons was not roughing the passer, and the hold to finish the game. But also Bradley Chubb is getting held on every play. Micah Parsons is getting held in every play. Like, holding is something the NFL need to fix. Like, it's pretty mad.
TJ Watt's getting held ridiculous amounts of time.
Yeah.
I think I saw Aiden Hutchinson is held a ton too. Like, there's something going on, and they need to address it.
We're in a time now where colleges aren't producing enough good offensive linemen to cope with the amount of great defensive ends that are coming. Like, we're in a golden era for defensive ends. There's a silly amount of people who could be defensive player of the year. Like, defensive ends are amazing at the moment, and the offensive lines aren't good enough. But the Cowboys played it that close. We were missing Tyron Smith at left tackle, so we were just getting killed on the blitz from the left tackle spot. Just couldn't cover it. I don't know why we wouldn't slide out Tyler Smith to left tackle and bring somebody in at left guard where they can be kind of more hidden. But yeah, with Tyron Smith out, we were in trouble in that game. Just a few plays that I want to bring up, really.
And just before you do that, I want to give you my opinion on why you guys lost.
Go on.
Your running game. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So they link to the two plays that I was gonna bring up. So the first play is Tony Pollard getting stopped half an inch from the end zone. I don't understand, Tony.
That was, he got swung the fuck. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I don't understand why he's not just running from the corner and laying out and diving in. So he cuts upfield into the contact to take the contact to try and get over the line, which you're fucking half an inch. But Tony Pollard is a small guy, which is why he shouldn't be our bell cow running back that we've been meaning to have. He should have gone straight for the pylon and dived in and used his speed to get over while you're running against a fucking linebacker to score that touchdown. And then the next play, our fullback is the person given the ball on the 1 yard line. Now, I don't know who's to blame in a handoff. I haven't done a lot in the NFL.
The quarterback, but I don't know who's.
I don't know who's to blame in the handoff. To me, it looks like Dak Prescott puts it directly in the breadbasket for the fullback to go on with. But obviously he might have tried to rip it at the last minute. Like, don't know. And then you try and punch it in. Why in such a big game where everyone's convinced it's a shootout because the Dolphins are fucking going for it in on fourth down, and we stop them, and we've all decided that field goals aren't going to do enough for us in this game, it seems. that are you giving it to the fullback on the 1 yard line there? Because they do it on 4th and 1, and he just makes it on 4th and 1 beforehand and looks like he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing there either. On this same drive, he does it on 4th and 1. So I don't understand why you're then giving it to the fullback. We then get out to a 7-point lead there. The Dolphins then go down, and that could still happen the same, and they get stopped for 3. We then drive down the field again, and we could have been 14 points up. And then that's where our defense eats when we're that higher level. So yeah, and then the final drive and then Dak Prescott has an excellent drive in the 4th quarter. I think it's 17 plays for a touchdown. We take loads of time off the board, and the defense just couldn't stop the run. For some reason, we leave Tyreek Hill free on a screen. I called it as soon as it was happening to my dad as we were sat there on Christmas Eve and said, "Oh, Tyreek Hill's running free over there. You can see he's going to throw the ball to Tyreek Hill," and the guy just walks down the field for a few yards, obviously, and then we can't stop the run game. So there's a few questions to be answered there, but I do think the Cowboys played well enough, and I hope they're not handing it off to a fucking fullback again on 3rd and 1 in a massive game.
I don't have a problem with you not liking it, but as a guy who has one of the top fucking fullbacks in the NFL on his team, who has been for years, CJ Ham,
yeah,
I'm used to the Vikings doing that, so I never thought about it the way you're thinking about it until you just said it, right? Like, it never crossed my mind, but what you said made 100%.
Yeah, when your fullback's one of your best players, that's fine. Like, CJ Ham is excellent at doing that.
Right. So
like,
I'm saying I never thought about it from your point of view.
That makes loads of sense. That makes loads of sense. But when you've got I'm not but Rico Dowdle has been our guy to punch it over from 1 yard out this entire season, has been doing it quite well. Why are we asking the fullback to do it now? CeeDee Lamb is unstoppable on the first tackle point. Why haven't we got CeeDee Lamb in the backfield? If you don't trust Tony Pollard, we better be drafting a running back.
Was my question, but
sneak it with that. I think Dak doesn't really sneak anymore with the injury, but it's also
times you just suck it up, and because
you just got to do it.
Patrick Mahomes doesn't do sneaks, but that game is kind of important at the end of the year here. Like, you just sneak that ball and call it a day.
Yeah, that there would be a sneak with Trey Lance. Why haven't we been practicing
even if
sneaks
you know
with Trey Lance all year?
Throw Trey Lance in there and tush push his ass over the line.
Yeah. Why haven't we been practicing that with Trey Lance since he became a Cowboy? Why is that not happening? We also have CeeDee Lamb, who's unstoppable on the first tackle. Jake Ferguson, who's a massive body. We've got guys who can do that.
Do you know what would have worked there too? But hindsight's 2020.
Yeah,
a pitch.
Yeah, well, that's what they did the play before, and Pollard doesn't go for the fucking.
No, I know, but if you watch the way that defense crashes, if they would have just pitched the ball, which, like I said, hindsight's 2020.
Yeah,
a fucking lineman could have ran that in on that play, because they were the Dolphins sold out that you guys were running that ball.
Yeah, and I. So that's a play that changes the game, but obviously you can't blame the whole. You can't blame the loss on that one play. We have problems as a defense stopping the run. When we got to get.
I think not having your running game get off is what I mean. I really think that's what it boils down to, because if you guys could have even got Pollard could have got 60, 70 yards rushing, it would have made a huge difference in that game.
Yeah, I think that's again a problem with the I think if Tyron Smith's in that game, I think we win the game as well. But that's the same thing that we say about the 49ers and we criticize Brock Purdy for, is that when he doesn't have his players, he doesn't win. So you've got to go out and do it. Also, the Dolphins are a fucking good football team, and they play really good football at home, and they played well, and we pushed them hard, and it came down to the last drive of the game, and it came down to who had the ball last, and they played well, and Tua Tagovailoa is a good quarterback for that system. We did well in stopping. Tyreek Hill didn't really go off against us. Jalen Waddle didn't really go off against us. I wouldn't say we had a problem against the run game all day. It was just the run game on that last drive. And also, Micah Parsons is getting held, and when he does make it to the quarterback and hits them, then it's a penalty. So I think the referee, and that's a problem with that's not a reason that we lost, because it was happening on the other side of the ball as well. But it's the refereeing. There needs to be a rule change in this holding penalty, this whole situation.
Tua did a great job of getting the ball out of his hands in like 2.4 seconds to kind of kill your pass rush.
Yeah, Tua does a really excellent job of so people compare him to like Brock Purdy quite a lot. And I actually think they're similar. Like, don't get me wrong, when you look at their physical stature, like the way that their offense is built around them, like, yeah. But Tua, I would say, just does everything at hyper speed. He gets through his reads so fast. Like, it's pretty impressive. So Brock Purdy, a lot of the time, his first read is open, so just zings it to his first read, which is why his get the ball out of your hand stats are quite good. But Tua gets through his 1, 2, 3 reads very quickly, throws it up with anticipation of where that guy's going to be. That's how he gets it out of his hands. Whereas Brock is first read isn't open, okay, and then lets the play develop a bit more, which isn't neither's better or worse than the other. It's just two different way of doing things. Whereas Tua just reads everything so fast, and he puts the ball with anticipation and air on that, which also helps when you've got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle running underneath it.
Yeah, I think Tua is one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL this year. But
yeah, I think that's fair.
We don't have.
I also think.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Just that defense with Jalen Ramsey is also totally different. Like, people are not realizing that the Dolphins are now, because Jalen Ramsey improves their pass rush because they've now got a lockdown corner as well, and like Jalen Ramsey makes a massive difference.
Now they can get coverage sacks, which they weren't getting before.
Yeah, and they have a decent defensive line already, which were getting sacks anyway, but now they've got time, so Jalen Ramsey makes a huge difference to them and their playoff hopes.
Just before we go on to the betting lines for this week, I just have to bring this up. What do you think about Aiden O'Connell beating the Kansas City Chiefs with 62 yards passing? 62 yards passing. That is wild.
Yeah, well, in the first quarter, the Chiefs had minus 18 yards of offense in the first quarter. So
wild game.
Yeah, pretty crazy game.
Somebody on ESPN bet $200 on the money line for the Raiders to win and won $9,000 on that game.
Good for them. I think we were both surprised as to how large the point spread was, right? Like, what was it? Like,
yeah, it was 9.5 or something.
9, 12. Yeah. The Eagles was 12.
Yeah, but somebody took the Raiders, the money line, $200 and won $9,000.
Yeah, good for them. This game to me proved that the Chiefs can't win if Patrick Mahomes doesn't have a perfect game. So the Chiefs are mistake prone on the offensive side of the ball, and then when Patrick Mahomes starts making those mistakes, like, they can't win football games. So they better hope that Pat has perfect games.
Give Antonio Pierce that job.
Yeah,
in Vegas, he's earned that job. Give him that.
Yeah,
job.
I agree. I agree. If he doesn't get the job now, like, then there was no way you were ever giving him the job, right? That's
correct.
That's the top and tail of it. Like, you weren't ever going to give him the job.
And he'll get a head coaching job after this if they don't give it to him. But he grew up in Compton as a Raiders fan from LA. Like, the only other team that would be as cool for him would probably be the Giants, because he won his Super Bowls with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, give the guy the job.
Yeah, give the guy the job, and if it doesn't, there'll be plenty of coordinator jobs for him or head coach jobs for him.
Even if it's not at this year, that's coming up. If they don't give him the job, I think he pretty much guaranteed at some point he'll see the head coaching job, because he's done. Those players love him. They've rallied behind him.
Yeah. Can we just talk one more game before we hit the hour mark and move on to the preview? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts really quickly on the Eagles game, because they're now the second seed in the NFC. So I think it would be interesting to hear how close they just played that game against the Giants.
Yeah, I thought they were going to fuck around and lose it for a second.
Yeah, me too. I was getting very excited about that. But yeah.
I think they're so talented, but if they don't start clicking, they'll be bounced early.
Yeah, I think they were so clearly better than the Giants that when the Giants got close, then they were able to make a big play and get away with it. But this is kind of what we had at the start of the season, and why I was interested to hear your thought on it. Because at the start of the season, before they lost those games, it was they played it close, but they got out with the win, and they played winning football and all of that kind of stuff. But now they've got the losses, and the Giants are not a good football team. Then it's a bit different. They're making more mistakes as well.
Yeah. They're really missing. I can't remember his name. The Colts head coach, their offensive coordinator, right now. They're really missing him.
Yeah, something like that, isn't it? Anyway,
yeah.
They definitely are. I think they should be worried if they face the Rams in the playoffs. I think they really should.
I think the Eagles are one of those teams, though. They could beat anybody in the playoffs, but they could also
100%.
lose any one of those games too.
Yeah, I think that their winning mentality is definitely a thing.
I feel like the Cowboys could beat any one of those teams on any given Sunday, but they could lose to those teams also.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are a bit of a different thing, though, because that depends what type of Cowboys team shows up. Whereas the Eagles, they seem to show up every week as they've still got this winning mentality that drags them into games or drags them over the line, but they're also going to make mistakes with interceptions, turnovers, that bloody kickoff, muffed kickoff thing that then goes for a turnover. Jalen Hurts throws a pick six. That's their downfall. Whereas the Cowboys, they either click or they don't click on both sides of the ball, and you don't know which one's going to show up that week.
All right. Should we get to some point spreads?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, tonight we got the New York Jets traveling to the Cleveland Browns with Trevor Siemian starting this game. And the Browns are 7.5-point favorites at home. Man, that's a bigger point spread than I wanted to see.
Two of the best defenses in the NFL. Probably, two of the best in the AFC as well, obviously, with the Ravens up there too. Trevor Siemian with a game-winning drive last week, but otherwise outside of that played horrible. Breece Hall, looks like he's finally recovering from his ACL and played a great game as well, where he's not just bursting off one big play for his whole stat line. He has
and their
lots of little
offensive
games.
line sucks balls.
Yeah, their offensive line is horrible. Their offensive line is horrible. And against this Cleveland Browns defense, with the Browns just having enough to get it done on their offensive side of the ball. And Amari Cooper is the kind of guy that does beat good cornerbacks as well because of his good route running. Like, he doesn't disappear because he's come up with somebody with good physical ability. I'm going to pick the Browns in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Browns minus the 7.5. Also, I just don't like the size of that point spread.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible.
All right, so we got the Lions traveling to the Dallas Cowboys. I've been saying this for 5 weeks now. The point spread is the Cowboys favored by 5.5. I've been saying this for at least 5 weeks now. The Cowboys just walk the Lions and let everybody know that the Lions as a playoff team are average at best. And so give me the Cowboys minus the 5.5.
On this one, I think we've got a really good matchup here for the Cowboys. To be perfectly honest, the Lions'
the Lions' defense sucks ass.
Exactly. So against the team where their defense can't really stop us, if we manage to get 2 touchdowns in the first, our defense is good enough to stop you, especially at the start of games when they're fresh off the they're fresh off the bench as well. And the Detroit offensive line is good, not great. What I'm worried about is that fast pass game over the middle to Amon-Ra St. Brown. That does worry me, but I think we have the speed at cornerback to take that out of the game.
You just double him, and what else do they got?
Yeah. Well, Sam Laporta as well, but yes.
Well, I meant for a receiver, not tight end, because you got safeties or a linebacker on the tight end. But yeah,
Yeah, of course. So I am worried about that game over the middle. I think this could be a sneaky shootout. What's the over-under on this?
5.5, or the over
The
under.
over-under.
The thing is too, it's 53.5. The thing is too with the Lions, they don't play well from behind. Jared Goff is not a come from behind type quarterback. So I think you guys punch him in the mouth right off the bat. And Mike McCarthy, if you're listening, if you win that coin toss, just receive. Stick a touchdown on them right away and put them on their heels. And I'm not usually one who says receive. I'm usually like defer to the second half. But just put a touchdown on them and make them fight from their backs against the wall right off the jump. And for some reason, the Cowboys are really good on their first drive.
Yeah, we're excellent on our first drive, like first quarter points. First quarter and fourth quarter points as Dallas Cowboys are excellent. There's also the issue of the Lions run game, which is also very good, but they can't defend the run at all. So Tony Pollard could have a huge game here. I'm going to take the Cowboys -5.5 as well.
All right. So now we got the San Francisco 49ers traveling to the Washington Commanders. 12.5 point favorites on the road for the fucking 49ers.
Yeah, that's pretty gross. Yeah. The 49ers, after a tough loss against the Ravens, are going to get a feel-good game here, and Brock Purdy's going to put his name back in the ring for MVP because he'll throw for 5 touchdowns and something crazy.
They're still fighting for the number 1 spot seed. So I think they come out. I think they actually dunk on Washington. I'll take the -12.5.
Yeah. I'll take the -12.5 on this one.
It's wild. We both just took -12.5 on a fucking point spread.
Yeah, the Commanders have been an interesting team this year because at the start of the year there was the whole they're a feisty team. They're this and this. Sam Howell has the most big time throws in the NFL. The most big time or big play throws in the NFL that year. He now has 1 in the past 3 games in terms of big down throws. Like people have caught up with Eric Bieniemy's offense, it seems like, and
they traded away their best 2 pass rushers, which doesn't fucking help either, right?
Yeah. And so then, for some reason, mid-season they trade away both. Like both is the weird one.
On the same day, right? Like didn't they trade them both on the? But the thing is, too, like everybody on that team is already packed and ready for Week 18 to be over, so they can go on vacation.
As soon as you've traded your 2 best defensive players in the same day, everybody knows it's vacation time from there, right? Holiday time.
You know what I like to say? 1, 2, 3 Cancun. Like that's them. Like
yeah. They're gone.
They're on their way.
They're gone. And the 49ers are not gone. As you say, the loss last week and the Eagles' schedule means that they're playing out now until the end of the season for top pick. So good luck whoever they've got next week as well.
Yeah, I think the 49ers finish out with the Rams, but don't quote me on that.
I think so too.
All right. So speaking of fighting for the number 1 and a big-ass point spread, you got the Arizona Cardinals traveling to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are favored by 11. I think the Eagles will win this game. I don't think it'll be more than 11 points. So I'm going to take the Cardinals plus the 11 because I think the Eagles win. But the Eagles don't win by double digits. That's not their style of game. And I kind of made fun of you just jokingly when you took – I forgot who you took over the Vikings. And I was like, it was a 3-point spread. You never take a team who loses or every game's within 1 score to.
It was the Bengals.
Yeah. So I'm taking my own advice on this, and I'm going Eagles win, but I'm taking Arizona and 11 points.
Yeah, on this one, I kind of had to clean my eyes after seeing that the Eagles were favored by -11. Because again, and I said this last week, and you also made fun of me for this. They haven't deserved this big of a point spread. They haven't done anything to deserve this size point spread.
I must have just been talking shit because I don't even remember making fun of you for that.
Yeah. You they don't. You said it's quite funny. You use the term they don't deserve it because it's the Eagles. Like you don't say the word
I think I was probably just taking
anybody
a shot at your fandom. Yeah.
But yeah, the Eagles have done nothing to deserve this. As you say, they don't win games like this by double digits. And the Cardinals, they played the 49ers kind of close for 3 quarters, and then it obviously got out of hand after, or maybe 2.5
They beat
quarters.
the
It got kind
Cowboys
of out
with
of
a worse
hand.
quarterback.
Yeah, they beat the. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, they beat the Cowboys with the worst quarterback. They have.
I'm just saying they're not as bad.
Right.
They're bad, but they're not as
Yeah.
bad as their record says they are.
Yeah, the only problem the Cardinals have right now is like Kyler Murray has no one to throw to. Like, and a lot of the time we say, and Kyler Murray's going to keep his job in Arizona, I think, and they're going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. to go play with him. They could probably trade down to draft Marvin Harrison Jr.
I agree with you, except I think the Bears might take him at number 1, but we'll see.
Which would be such a mistake. But yes, that could also happen. If Atlanta doesn't come with a good enough package for Justin Fields, then the Bears could probably do that.
I think
which would be ridiculous.
Fields is doing just enough to fuck the Bears over, and they stick with it. Because that's what Jordan Love's doing with the Packers, and I love it. But maybe I'm just being a homer and want that to. Maybe I'm like manifesting, right? Because that's what I want to happen in the NFC North. I want Justin Fields to stay. I want Jordan Love to stay in this division because I don't want them getting good quarterbacks because I think Jordan Love's going to be average. When it's all said and done, he'll be a middle of the road, 15, 16 quarterback every year. And I think Justin Fields is what Justin Fields is. And I don't think he's ever going to light the world on fire passing. I personally think the Bears defense is starting to look better.
Yeah.
They're starting to actually pick up. I say, sound crazy, fire everyone. Start over, build off that defense, and rebuild your offense. That's just me, though.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. With the Eagles, as well, I think the Eagles they're good for. They're always going to make mistakes. Like they're due quite a few mistakes in a game, which will cost them points. Like Jalen Hurts is interception prone this season. Like he is. That's the reality that people are going to have to get
Maddie's face when he says that, everybody. Just even if you have to rewind a little bit, that smile this motherfucker gets every time he gets to dunk on Jalen is just epic. He smiles and he tries not to, but it's this big smile that he's fighting back.
I was right. That's all I'm saying.
Look, Maddie, you've been right before on this show and never smiled like that.
Never had that smile. But by the way, it's not hate on Jalen. It's hate on the Eagles quarterback in general.
No, I get it. It's Eagles hate. I absolutely get
it. But yes, it's Eagles hate that happens to be true this time. So the Eagles are good for a few mistakes. Jalen Hurts is good for an interception, which means I think the Eagles will again get this win. Like, don't get me wrong, they're a much better team than the Arizona Cardinals, but plus 11 is way too big. They don't deserve it. They don't win games like that.
No, I agree. But so on to the next game. Can we just call this the Justin Fields Bowl? Because Atlanta Falcons are traveling to Soldier Field and the Bears are -3 favorites at home, which again, because of Vegas, means that Vegas thinks on a neutral field, these teams are pretty much equal. Give me Atlanta and the money line. I just think Bijan Robinson's going to open up some things. I think Atlanta's defense is good enough to contain Justin Fields. And I think Atlanta is still, I know Atlanta is still fighting for a playoff spot where the Bears are not. So I think that gives Atlanta a little more fuel to the fire to get in there and do something. So give me Atlanta +3, or not +3. Give me the money line, even though they're favored by the Bears are favored by 3. I'll take the money line.
Yeah, I just don't trust Arthur Smith to do what he should do to.
I knew that. That's
win this game.
Part of the reason I decided is so we'd actually pick something different here too.
Yeah, I don't trust Arthur Smith to use his weapons in the right way again. Last week, let's just get this up a sec. Last week he actually used Bijan Robinson last week, and they looked great. And then he started dialing up plays to get it to Jonnu Smith again, and he's dialing up plays with Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson so he can get the ball to Scotty Miller. Like it confuses me. I like Scotty Miller. I like Johnny Smith. They won 29 points to 10. They played really well. Taylor Heineke came into the team, and oh my God, like when they have a guy who'll actually throw the ball, they look great. But Bijan Robinson got 12 carries for 72 yards. He should have had way more than that in a win of 29 to 10. Should have had way more. He also had 7 receptions as well, which we agree is an extension of the run game. Kyle Pitts got 3 receptions. Drake London got 3 receptions. Johnny Smith got 4. I don't understand why he uses his weapons in that way, even in a win, and I don't trust him to do that. I also think Justin Fields has captured some weird thing here where finally nobody expects him to throw the ball, so he's just allowed to run and do what he does. And at points, sometimes when he's doing that, he is a special player and will be good to get you a win.
And where running quarterbacks have problems is when you get pressure up the middle, and that is where Atlanta can pressure you too. So that's why I took them. But don't get me wrong, I would not be fucking shocked if the Bears won this game. But if I had to bet it, I'm taking Atlanta in the money line.
Yeah.
All right. This is the 2 weeks in a row do we get amazing matchups for the Ravens. Miami's traveling to Baltimore. Baltimore is only a 3-point favorite in this game. I think this is going to be an electric game. I think this could be a playoff preview for everybody. And coming off such a big win of the 49ers, I think there's a letdown, and I think the Dolphins win this game. And I think the Ravens are a better team. But I think coming off a letdown because of the energy they put into beating the so-called best team in the NFL, and you had idiots like Florio who were like, what was his exact words? The 49ers are going to kick the Ravens' ass, I think was his exact words. I think you get so hyped up for a game. I do believe in a letdown the week after. I do believe that there can be that energy. You gave up so much energy in that game, you don't even realize it. I think it's a trap game for the Ravens. I think the Ravens are a better team, but give me the Dolphins plus the 3 in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to go the other way on this one because the Dolphins also won in a really close and big game with a lot of energy. They also have the nerves of the Bills coming up behind them to take their top spot, which I don't think is going to happen because I think the Bills are always good for a loss, and they tried to do it this week against Giff Smith and the Chargers. Is that his name? Giff Smith? Is it Smith? I know it's Giff. Jiff.
Yeah, I don't know. It just makes me laugh every time I hear somebody say the name. I think to myself, what were your parents thinking? I can't help but
it's great coaching job this week, Jiff. But you got to change your name by now.
It ain't nothing against him. It's just I wonder to myself, what were your parents thinking? But I know some people hear my kid's name and go, "Why would you name your kid Justice?" So,
isn't it some sort of peanut butter Jif?
Jif is probably the most famous peanut butter in the U.S.
Right. Okay. Cool. That makes sense. Anyway, sorry. Back to the Miami Dolphins. So the Miami Dolphins.
I got a quick question for you on this game, and I get it. You're going with it, but there's no right answer because I don't know the answer to myself. But who do you trust more, John Harbaugh or Mike McDaniel?
Oh, that's a weird question. So trust is probably John Harbaugh. Who do I think's a more interesting and innovative coach?
Love that
Mike McDaniel.
Right? Fucking love. The in-season Hard Knocks is fucking amazing this year with the Dolphins. Okay. It is fucking amazing. I love the way he coaches. Last week, I don't know if you saw it, but he just looks at one of his coaches and he goes, "I'm going to go kick some shit up." And then he just goes around and friendly fucks with the team, telling Tua, "I want to hear you talk shit after every completion. I want to hear you talk shit." He's got these guys so amped. They love this dude. And I don't even mean this to be funny, but he's young enough where he dresses like them too, right? So the skinny sweats, they relate with him. That's all I'm getting to is he's an age where he is so relatable to these players, where a lot of times coaches are so much older that they're hard to relate to. Not a shot at Mike McCarthy, but what the fuck does he have in common with a 22-year-old? You know what I mean?
Stand CeeDee Lamb and Mike McCarthy next to each other, you're going to struggle to have a like a similar vibe, like going
Right,
on there.
right.
Yeah,
There's
I get
something
what you mean.
about Mike McDaniel's. Like these players are
Yeah.
feeling him. Like
Yeah,
I was not sure about him after watching a few interviews because he's not the most eloquent talker, like speaker in the world.
yeah.
But then the more I watch him on Hard Knocks, and I'm like, oh, he's just does that little quirky shit with the media. Like, because I was thinking maybe,
Yeah.
ooh, is he going to annoy his team like Dan Campbell would annoy me? But then I watch him,
Mhm.
and he's not like that with his team. That's the quirky shit he does with the media, right? Like, he's
Yeah.
really grown on me. I am so impressed with that guy.
Yeah, and he schemes up an amazing offense as well. Like his offensive scheme that he's got going on. But I think John Harbaugh keeps his team in a more traditional way, kind of like very level. Like John Harbaugh's been there, he's done it. And I think his team does relate to John Harbaugh a little bit. He's not like the old dude in the locker room, is he? He's
I
like
agree.
an old guy who keeps up to date and kind of knows what's going on. And they're very into their faith, aren't they? The hardballs. So I guess that's something that they relate to.
I also think it's very underrated with John Harbaugh is that he was a special teams coach. And people are like, you don't usually see the special teams coach become a head coach, which the more I think about it, why? He actually has to deal with every position group on the team for special teams, right? And most special teams coaches are actually loved by everybody on a team, and they know how to deal with all the different personalities. I think more and more teams, if you're not going to hire an offensive coach, don't be afraid to hire a special teams coach. Because
definitely.
Bisaccia would have been a great fucking hire for the Raiders. I don't care what anybody says as a special.
Yeah.
And he's got Green Bay special teams looking like the best unit out of all three of theirs in Green Bay. So, like, there's something to be said, I think, about a special teams coach getting a head coaching job.
Yeah, definitely. And I trust the Ravens to stay more level after their win. Not that the Dolphins have gone crazy or anything. I just also think I do think there is something into the Dolphins on the road as well. The Dolphins and the Cowboys are incredibly similar. If the Dolphins Cowboys game was played in AT&T, the Cowboys probably would have won that game. They're very similar in the way that they play. They're very similar in the fact that they're not. There's questions about them on the road. So let's see how they go on the road in Ann Arbor to the Ravens.
There is, and we don't have to get into this now. There's something we can talk in the offseason, but there is now talk that they want to start making playoff games neutral field.
Okay. It nullifies the regular season, but we don't have to talk about it.
No, but how awesome would it be to be like the Eagles and the Cowboys are going to play in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl?
I think the NFC Championship game and the AFC Championship game should be.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant when I said playoffs.
Okay, that makes sense.
I didn't mean all the playoffs.
Yeah,
Sorry, I said that wrong. There's talk about making those like neutral.
They should be. They should be.
I think it'd be exciting. Yeah. Now, it'll fuck the owners because of the money you make from that game. They'll have to figure out a revenue split with that. But I think it would make it exciting to see some of these games like, you know, you got two teams playing in Miami and it's Buffalo and fucking Green Bay. Well, they different divisions, but you get my point.
Yeah. We can talk about it more in the offseason, but there's other cool shit that you can give to like the highest seed people as well. By the way, like in every other sport I know, the highest seed gets the most money, not is hamstrung in the draft and stuff like that. You know what I mean? There's other cool things you can give to the top teams in the NFL. And
then I like that we're not I was worried for a little bit. You and I were going to ride the whole same picks all the way through. So now at least we went off with two of them, but I'm actually interested to see what you pick here because the Patriots traveling to Buffalo. Buffalo is favored by 13 at home. The Patriots are not good this year. I don't think the Buffalo Bills lose this game. I think they win this game. But with that defense that Bill Belichick always has out there, I don't think it's a 13-point game. So give me the Pats plus 13 in a loss.
Yeah, it's the same as what we said for the Bills against the Chargers. Do you trust the Buffalo Bills to be in a big point spread? Fuck no. Like, why would you? Josh Allen, again, great for turnovers. Like, if you ever want a turnover, you want to play against Josh Allen right now. Like,
and that is coaching.
You might get, you might get cooked. Like, don't get me wrong. He could kick Josh Allen could throw 3 interceptions and still cook you for 400 yards. Like it's not that kind of thing. But
do you think he throws that many turnovers with Kevin O'Connell, Mike Shanahan, Mike McCarthy, like these types of coaches? Because I don't. I think they put Josh Allen in better positions than he's being put in Buffalo, because I don't think there's any way in a Mike McCarthy's West Coast offense he throws as many interceptions. I don't think there's any way in a KOC or a Mike Shanahan with the talent that he has, because he's super fucking talented. Like, and I know I like to bust your balls, but it is an anomaly that Dak threw that many interceptions in a Mike McCarthy offense last year, right? Because if you go back through, Aaron Rodgers never threw that many fucking touchdowns or interceptions with Mike McCarthy. Like, Aaron Rodgers was usually single digits. Even Brett Favre, who was a fucking gunslinger and had 30 interceptions in a season, not with Mike McCarthy, he didn't. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, there's something like, I think the coaches are letting him down, and then now you're finally seeing a running game, right? And you called it early, because I was off James Cook after last year. You called it early with James Cook this year, but I don't think you're going to run on Bill Belichick the way you ran on some of these other teams. And as odd as it sounds, I think Belichick's going to look at him and go, if you're going to beat us, it's going to be Josh Allen that beats us.
Yeah, and I said in the Cowboys game, when we said what happened with the Cowboys game, I said, well, the Bills took the ball out of Josh Allen's hands. Like that was my first analysis of this game. The Bills took the ball out of Josh Allen's hands. And that's not me saying that Josh Allen is a shit quarterback that makes them lose. It's me saying Josh Allen is the type of quarterback that will win you a game if you use him the right way, in the right time, in the right positions. And that's, okay, don't throw any interceptions, use the run game, and we're a good roster and we're a good team. We'll just beat them first, and then we can fucking showboat later. Like, all of that kind of thing. We'll up your numbers for the MVP. We'll do all of that stuff later. It feels like they're always trying to go, Josh Allen winners the game. Like, they blow the whistle from the first quarter and it's Josh Allen winners the game. Like, we said it with the going into the Chargers. We said they're not going to run the ball the same amount with James Cook. Now, James Cook had 2 fumbles, one of which wasn't a fumble. But James Cook had James Cook had 2 fumbles, which obviously isn't great for your run game. But they also went away from the run far too quickly against the Chargers. And if they just stuck with the run, they would have hit the point spread. Now they're going to go and they're going to play the Patriots, and the Patriots coming off a good win in Denver as well. Like, let's not forget that Bailey Zappi seemed to snap out of playing shit football after the first quarter and remembered that he actually knows how to play football again. So yeah, I don't think the Bills are good for a big point spread ever, and I definitely don't think against the Patriots. I think it's a crazy one to me.
And do the Bills overlook the Patriots because they have to deal with Miami next week?
Yeah, also freezing cold in Buffalo never amounts to big point games and all of that kind of stuff as well. So there's so many factors for it to not be a big point spread. Do you know what? That might be the game that I would go, yeah, that's the money game for me. Look, I think the Bills are going to win, but
you're taking the Patriots plus the points also.
Yeah.
All right.
All the way to the bank.
On to a game that's actually huge for both teams, but it's absolutely huge for the Minnesota Vikings also, oddly. The New Orleans Saints traveling to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If the Buccaneers stay in first place, the Vikings have the tiebreaker against the rest of the division. If somebody else goes in, Tampa's got the tiebreaker for the wild card against the Vikings. So the Vikings are the biggest Tampa fans right now. They're 2.5-point favorites at home. I like what Baker Mayfield's doing in Tampa, and it oddly came out this week. From there, the players and that organization love Baker as much as they love Tom Brady.
Well,
nobody's talking about like he's as good as Tom Brady. What they're saying is he is absolutely loved in that locker room by the people, which I think is awesome for Baker, because Baker has gotten such a bad rap. Oh, he's an asshole. He's not a good teammate. He's not this. He's not that. And I think it goes back to, we're going to argue at some point, not me and you, but the world's going to argue at some point. Kevin Stefanski and the Browns handled him so fucking wrong
So bad.
From the jump. I'm taking Baker minus the 2.5 in this game. Might be because I need them to win, but I still think they're gonna win.
Yeah, I've been a Bucks fan all year. Like, I've not understood why they started off hot, and then in the middle of this team should have already won this division. The Bucks team, they went cold in the middle of the season, and to me it was inexplicable. Like, I couldn't understand why with that wide receiver call, the way that Baker Mayfield wasn't playing badly, the wide receiver call was playing well, and they were still losing games, but not scoring enough points. It was inexplicable to me how the Bucks were
Maybe
losing
it was
those
just a
games.
new system for Baker. I don't know.
Yeah, got to. But Baker was still playing well. Anyway, didn't really get it. But now what has happened is they've got a few wins, and Baker's got his confidence back. And Baker Mayfield as a confident quarterback is something else. Now, the fact that he lost his confidence in the first place is amazing to me, because that was his best quality. Like, that when he first came out, he had to walk on. He'd had to walk on onto two separate teams and became the first overall pick in the draft. Like, if you don't have the biggest bollocks in the world in terms of confidence in that point, like, how did he lose that? That's got to be poor coaching somewhere down the line, and making him play hurt and making him look shit because he decided to come out and give you a hand because you were playing hurt. So I love Baker Mayfield in this game. Now, the Saints have had it over the Buccaneers in the past few seasons. So,
and they got talent everywhere. Like, that's the weird thing about the Saints is they are so fucking talented, but they don't play up to that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're hitting two organizations and two quarterbacks in very different circumstances, where the Saints seem to lost confidence in their talent, and the Bucs seem to elevate what they've got going on and have become a much more confident team. And I'm going to trust the Bucs in this one to get it done. Bucs minus 2.5.
All right. Now, we're going to talk about the Panthers traveling to the Jaguars. The Jags are 6.5-point favorites. I don't know what the fuck is going on in Jacksonville. They look like a different team every fucking week. Panthers are playing better than they were. Like, Bryce Young seems to finally be starting to get a little bit of a groove, look pretty good in the Packers game. I don't think they have much talent on that team, which really hurts. I think Bryce Young's eating a lot of shit. I think now CJ Stroud, I think, is a better quarterback and is going to be a better NFL quarterback. But I think Bryce Young looks a lot better in Texas than he does in Carolina if that draft goes differently. So, I don't think Bryce Young is the problem in Carolina. I still don't they just don't have the talent. And Jacksonville should be beating the shit out of some of these teams. They're not. But I think Jacksonville gets it together this week and wins this game. I'm going to take Jacksonville by 6.5. Wouldn't shock me if Jacksonville won by less than that and I lose this bet, but I still think Jacksonville wins, so I'm going to take them with 6.5.
Yeah, so that was the best game of Bryce Young's young career. And they did it obviously off the back of his other best game where they beat the Falcons in the steroiding rain. So he should be more confident. Now, a lot of that is due to the Packers'
awful.
Chuck Berry's defensive coordinating is awful. We always say, prevent defense is the fastest way to let a team back into a game. They're talking about
keeping him, Maddie.
Great. Good for you, right?
Like, Joe Barry has been shit no matter where he's been in the NFL. And they're talking about keeping this guy. And I don't usually call people in this profession clowns, but this dude's a fucking clown when it comes to running a defense.
Yeah, and it's as soon as they get up by, they're situationally just horrible. Like, they're really bad, and we'll talk more about it in the Packers game. But the quickest way to let a team back into a game is by playing prevent defense. So you've got to make sure they get up by a lot before you start playing prevent. So Bryce Young's best game, it's important to remember his two best games in the NFL is one, he threw for one touchdown. I think they scored 9 points, something like that. And then the second one is basically against total prevent defense. But it's also important to remember his best wide receiver is Adam Thielen, who the Vikings weren't sure was their third, maybe even their fourth best wide receiver.
Yeah, and I think it was at the
at that
price,
point.
right? Because he's getting like
Yeah.
fucking 16 million a year or something like that. So I think it was at the price. Adam Thielen would be an amazing number 2 for that team if they had a legitimate number 1. But DJ Chark is not DJ Moore. Like, and I didn't think DJ
Yeah.
Moore was necessarily a number 1. Like, so I think they sitting on a team with a bunch of 2s and 3s, and you expecting a young quarterback to do something. Their offensive line isn't very good, and
offensive line is horrible.
And their defense is better than they look because the defense never gets off the fucking field.
Yeah. Yeah, the defense is if they get their whole thing in the draft now is you've given away your top picks, you've given away a lot in the draft for Bryce Young.
I don't know how much cap room they have, but they better have a lot to go sign some free agents.
Yeah. You gave away DJ Moore as well, who would have been very helpful for Young as well. But the DJ Moore seems to be the reason that you got Young. Anyway, so they're a team that's wounded, but a team that is even more wounded is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, Trevor Lawrence has been injured 4 times with 4 different injuries across 5 games. Four different injuries in 5 games, which is pretty incredible. And the Jags seem to have just totally lost confidence in themselves. They seem to totally have lost their way.
They do have $40 million in cap space next year.
Yeah, the Panthers. So they'll be a fun team to have an eye on because you've got to make Young look good in his second year. So any wide receivers out there are going to get the bag to go to the Panthers. Yeah. Any wide receivers who have decided they don't get paid enough, just call up Carolina and they're going to pay you a lot of money. For
their problem too is if you're a head coach, do you really want that job because they fire head coaches so quick?
Yeah, they're not the head like Antonio Pierce. If he doesn't get the Raiders job, Carolina. Like that's the level of coach that they should be looking at really. In Carolina, because Bill Belichick's not going to go there.
Back to your point, Trevor Lawrence has had some really bad injury issues this year, like unlucky.
Yeah. So how much of this game is CJ Beathard is what I want to know before I pick a 6.5 point spread. Like 6.5 seems a lot to me. So again, I'm going to say the Jags win the game. I think they'll win the game by 3. Give me the Panthers plus 6.5 because I think the Panthers have just got enough. Bryce Young is playing just enough football to keep it within a touchdown.
All right. Well, the surging Rams are traveling to the descending New York Giants. They're 5.5 point favorites on the road traveling to New York. I mean, I like the Rams. I like the Rams minus 5.5 in this game. I mean, the Giants, even with the fun of Tommy Cutlets, even though he went out and all of that, they don't have an offensive line. I think Tommy Cutlets was sacked over 30 times since he started, which is just insane to think about that. And I believe this year alone, they've given up 78 sacks on the quarterback.
They were pretty wild.
You can't win giving up that many sacks. And the Giants they overachieved last year, which makes them look even worse this year.
Yeah, they overachieved last year. Their quarterback goes out. Obviously, their quarterback's Daniel Jones, so I'm not sure how much they really lost. Because Tyrod Taylor if Tyrod Taylor didn't also get injured and Tommy DeVito didn't come.
Hey, Tommy Cutlets.
Yeah, that could be this could be the last time we see Tommy DeVito in the NFL. By the way, like he's going to go be a used car salesman somewhere, like Cutlets car sales, dude, like something like that.
Those games guaranteed him fucking 7 years as a backup in this league.
Yeah, he gets to pick the Giants or the Jets because it has to be New York. So he whichever one was his favorite growing up as a kid, like whatever. So yeah, I think Tyrod Taylor is a much better quarterback than DeVito. Tyrod Taylor looked good against the Eagles. I think he's a better quarterback than Daniel Jones as well. So great. The Rams, how the Eagles were a -9 spread against the Giants last week. and the Rams are only -5.5 blows my mind. Like that's a little crazy to me. I personally like the Eagles are a better team than the Rams, but the Rams have on a much more of a hot streak, and they win games by putting teams to the sword at points as well. The Rams have an excellent run game. Their wide receiver core of Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, and Cooper Kupp is like that's one of the best wide receiving cores in the NFL. Matthew Stafford is incredible. And playing some of the best football of his career as well. And then you've also got a guy called Aaron Donald who gets to go up against this Giants offensive line with some help in the defensive end spots as well. So I think this is Rams -5.5 all day long. Karen Williams is going to take me to our fantasy football championship victory for my second victory in our fantasy football league in 3 years.
You know what happens when you start talking shit like that, right?
Yeah, Karen Williams is going to go for 2 yards and 5 fumbles and lose me entirely.
All right. I had to switch my fucking phone charger quit working. I didn't realize my phone's almost dead and I almost lost all my notes here. All right. So we got the Raiders traveling to the Colts. The Colts are favored by 3.5 in this game. I think that's a wild point spread. I think Gardner Minshew is way better than Aiden. I think the Raiders defense is pretty good, but I think they looked better than they are against the Chiefs. And I think the Colts team is actually sneaky good, even with Gardner Minshew. So give me the Colts at home -3.5.
Yeah, I mean the Colts just got beat by the Falcons, only scoring 10 points, which is an interesting thing. But I think that's more of an anomaly rather than the rule of what the Colts have been this year. The Gardner Minshew has played really well again. He's basically secured himself a backup quarterback spot for his entire football playing life because of his personality and character and the fact that he's a good quarterback. He's probably going to be a starting quarterback at some point in the NFL next year, whether that's starting from the start of the season or coming in for somebody who's injured, whether that's with the Colts or not. So Gardner Minshew is good as well. Michael Pittman being out of this game is a big deal. For that, is he still out? I know he was out last week.
I thought they said that he was going to play, but I'm going to check real quick.
Yeah. All good.
Yeah, okay. He's back at practice and he's at full practice and he cleared protocol. So
so Michael Pittman being in then is a big deal. We'll see how he's recovered from that monster hit, which I think Casey shouldn't have been gone for the entire season. But anyway, that's different as well. Pittman's a big plus for them in a game where they didn't have him last week, so he makes a big difference. I'll take the Colts -3.5 here as well.
Yeah, I think the NFL has to start doing something too about stop with these penalties when they lead with the shoulder and they hit another dude's shoulder first or his chest, and then the shoulder comes up to the head. There's nothing a defensive player can do if I hit you correctly and you either duck or we both just slide up. You know what I mean? Like there's got to be some more done.
Yeah. The weird thing about the Casey one is the amount of mitigation that was there. So like Pittman is falling to the ground quite heavily already, and then Casey comes in and wipes him out. Look, in rugby, player safety is on the tackler. So if you accidentally hit him in the head, well, that's your fucking fault. Like you shouldn't have done that. Like you should have been more careful with where you're putting your shoulder. It doesn't mean that you're suspended for an entire season. Like and is also, what's crazy about
not a shot at rugby, but dudes aren't flying at a 4-2 across the field trying to aim while another guy's ducking. You know what I mean? It's a wild play.
The tackle technique is the tackle strategy is quite different as well. So obviously, football is a game of most of the time, if you have the most possessions, you win, right? Whereas rugby is a game of like, just don't. They can have the ball, that's fine, but don't let them break the tackle. Don't let them like most of the time. The way you lose rugby games is by giving break tackles. So what frustrates me so much in American football, quite a lot of the time, just to go on a divergent, is that torpedoing out of nowhere to try and knock the ball out instead of just going, okay, we're just going to make this tackle, we'll go to the next down, we won't lose the touchdown here, and stuff like that, like a rugby style tackle. So it is different. If you're coming up and you're hitting somebody in the head in rugby, you are doing something wrong anyway. But American football players, you do it all the time, and it is unfortunate.
There is a video I should need to find on YouTube that I saw like a week ago where it was rugby players who ended up playing football and were like, tackling's nowhere near the same.
No. It's a different.
But they break it down like what their thought is in rugby compared to what it is. And like for people like me who don't watch rugby, it was a very informative video.
Yeah, the goal of the tackle is different in rugby. Like you do get rugby style tackle. Like I don't understand when they've already beat you, why a DB is trying to come in and wipe the ball out. Like for me, in an open field tackle, the goal is just get the guy on the fucking ground. Like no need to come in and wipe the dude out. But otherwise, yeah, it's a totally different tackling thing. So KZ was unfortunate. It's good that Pittman's good and Pittman is playing in this game, which I think makes a big difference to the Colts offense.
All right. Well, then we got Tennessee Titans traveling to the Houston Texans, and the Texans fighting right now to get into the playoffs. They are 5-point favorites at home, so it's -5 on the Texans at home.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer to me that I'm taking the Texans at a -5 here. CJ Stroud is back.
Likely to start. He's likely to start.
Yeah. It seems that but everybody seems to think that CJ Stroud's starting. Nico Collins is back in the game, which means Noah Brown goes down to second wide receiver, which is a big deal. I think in that offense. I think the Texans come out and they play that. What gets overshadowed by the fact that CJ Stroud is great is that the Texans also have an awesome defense who, even though they conceded 36 points, turned over Joe Flacco twice as well. And if Davis Mills can make the most of those turnovers, they're probably in a much closer game at the end of that game as well. With CJ Stroud there, so the Texans and is Will Levis in or out? Do you know? He's your starting quarterback in fantasy, isn't he?
I'm making sure.
But yeah, Ryan Tannehill played himself out of a starting quarterback role.
He practiced yesterday.
Okay, yeah, so Will Levis is in then. Ryan Tannehill played himself out of a starting quarterback role with his play last week. Not a starting quarterback role in Tennessee, just a starting quarterback role anywhere. Like he's now a backup quarterback for most teams in the NFL. Really good one, don't get me wrong, but still a backup quarterback. With Will Levis and CJ Stroud there, this is going to be a fun game. But give me the Texans defense over the Titans defense any day.
I agree. Texas -5. All right. Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to the Seattle Seahawks. Everybody in the NFC is a Steelers fan this week. The Seahawks are favored 3.5 at home. Give me Pittsburgh in the money line. Mason Rudolph, George Pickens. That defense is going to play up to par. I do not trust Seattle. I think they have a better offense all around, but I think that Pickens and why am I going blank on their tight end? Help me out here, Maddie. Freiermuth are enough to work the Seattle defense to open up the running lanes. I say you keep Najee Harris off the field, but do what you want, Steelers, because you guys keep bringing Najee in for some reason when he is obviously your second best back, but that's okay. But give me the Steelers in the money line. I think the Steelers beat the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are now dead.
I think that's crazy. Seahawks off two big wins. the Seahawks have an excellent wide receiver core. They have solid quarterback play out of either Geno Smith or Drew Lock, both solid quarterbacks, it seems, this year. Their defense seems to go completely underrated in the league this year. Their rookie corners are fantastic. They get decent pressure. They're not obviously amazing. Mike Tomlin got great win last week for the Steelers. They played really well. George Pickens went off, really made up for quitting on his team the week before. So I do get, like, the Steelers are also a really good team, but to me, the Seahawks, one of the more underrated teams in the NFL. Give me the Seahawks in this one at -3.5.
That's funny because I think they're one of the most overrated teams. So that's how much we differ on that one.
That must mean they're properly rated, right?
Maybe that's actually a good way to put it. Maybe that is it.
Yeah.
I think, though, the Steelers are fighting for the playoffs too right now. I think they all rally behind Rudolph and Tomlin. I think the Seahawks upset the game, but that might be just because, and subconsciously, it benefits me if they lose.
Yeah, I think Mason Rudolph good for 1 or 2 games. Like, I think there's never been so many quarterbacks.
You have to be great with Frymouth and Pickens and Johnson. I think you just have to be good. Like, I don't think you have to be great.
I really don't think they use Frymouth in that offense nearly enough. Obviously, he's been my fantasy tight end, but on top of that, I don't think they use him nearly enough, like, at all, in their play. I think he's massive bodied tight end who is as good in the run game as he is in the pass game. Like, he should be, he's Mark Andrews. Like, to me, I think he should be getting way more time in their offense, way more targets, most importantly.
So we have the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are at home favored by 6.5. I think Browning's played good for them. But I think the coach turns back into a pumpkin, and I think the Chiefs win this game. Any higher than 6.5, I wouldn't love, but give me the -6.5 in the Chiefs, because even though they're not playing their best ball, I still think they're better than the Bengals without Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I think that the Chiefs still have one of the most underrated defenses in the NFL. Like, people don't talk about this Chiefs defense enough. I don't expect Patrick Mahomes is going to play with as many mistakes as he did last week. I think largely a lot of it's down to frustration in his team, which, I mean, can't be getting much better either. But I think we've seen... Sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think we've seen the regression of Jake Browning over the past... in the last game that they played now. I think we saw that Jake Browning, again, good for a few games, but once you figure them out, and you probably move on to the next guy. There's got to be some sort of backup QB sweet spot where you get the 2 amazing games that you get from your backup QB when he first gets in, and then you cut them just before they fall off a cliff. So if you cut Josh Dobbs just before he fell off a cliff and moved on to Nick Mullins, and then Nick Mullins had his 2 great games, you managed to then get rid of Nick Mullins just before his big bad game as well, then the Vikings are already in the playoffs, right? But there's got to be a way.
Like, what I see going on in Kansas City too is it's too much not playing within the play. Like, Patrick Mahomes is not in a rhythm in the play. Like, all of his plays are coming from him breaking outside, scrambling around, that second play, which is fine, but you're not playing within the system. And I think that's a big problem right now in Kansas City is Patrick Mahomes is not playing within the offensive system. He's not getting the ball out on time, on timing routes in the pocket, which I think would make the game a lot easier for what's going on in Kansas City.
Yeah, I think they're also regretting whatever happened with Orlando Brown. Like, whatever happened with Orlando Brown and the reason that he's not a Chief anymore, I think.
Yeah, he wanted to play left tackle,
yeah, I think they're definitely regretting that, because since the Super Bowl where he was hobbling around the entire time against the Bucs, where the Bucs just ate him alive because it was backup quarterbacks, they basically said that's never going to happen again. We're never going to let that happen. And they've had a good offensive line since then. So now he's playing with a bad offensive line. And Patrick Mahomes has always been amazing at ad-libbing and playing outside the play, but we saw his best season was when, because Tyreek Hill wasn't there, he was forced to play within the play, which was last year where they won the Super Bowl. And that, to me, was his best season. So the amount of ad-libbing isn't good, but I think the amount of ad-libbing is because he doesn't trust his wide receivers. He thinks they need to be totally open, or he's going to throw an interception.
Do you think Eric Bieniemy has anything to do with this offense not being as good?
I would if the Commanders hadn't fallen off in the past 2-3 weeks as well. Like, so the Commanders looked great at the start of the season, but now the Commanders have fallen off, and it seems people have read Eric Bieniemy's offense now. And maybe, look, we started to read the Chiefs offense when Eric Bieniemy was there. Like, we started to read it, but then Andy Reid was also adding on top of Bieniemy's offense there.
Hey,
whereas in Washington, it's just Bieniemy. Did
you notice when you bring in Matt Nagy to any team, they just go to shit? I'm just saying.
He weirdly looked like he was doing a good quarterback coaching job at the start of the year, and now, yeah, I don't think it's Matt Nagy's fault.
I'm blaming Matt Nagy. Fuck it. All right, so you got the Chiefs also in this game?
Yeah, I got the Chiefs in that one.
All right, we got the Chargers traveling to the Broncos. Broncos favored by 3.5, even with Jarrett Stidham starting this game. Jarrett Stidham has magical powers, Maddie. I have figured this out. Jarrett Stidham said, you know what? You guys should just bench Derek Carr and let me play. And the Raiders are like, cool. Now they're like, just bench Russell Wilson and let me play. Subliminally, Stidham's got some magical powers. He's the Voldemort of the fucking NFL. This dude is pulling off some wizard shit. I don't know why Stidham gets stuck in the middle of these fucking things. He's not a bad backup quarterback, though. The Chargers look like complete fucking ass. So the minus 3.5 doesn't surprise me all that much. And, I mean, it's a battle of who gives a shit on the quarterbacks. So, yeah, give me the Broncos minus the 3.5. They rally behind Stidham. And Sean Payton shows that he's a better coach than me and everybody's been giving him credit for this year.
Yeah, Jarrett Stidham came in that game as the Raider and threw for 400 yards, didn't he? Straight off the bat. But I think what's happened here is Jarrett Stidham has made friends with Tommy DeVito, and Tommy DeVito has some boys who have visited the owner of the things and with a baseball bat and a suggestion.
Hey, we think it'd be in your fucking best interest if maybe you just fucking went out and started Stiddy. Because Stidham played so good with the Raiders, I started calling him Stiddy. Like, the dude got a nickname from me. He was balling out so good, Yeah,
so DeVito definitely has some friends that are in construction, right? Got to have done. And they made best mates and went round to the Broncos.
Hey, a friend of mine needs
the Sean Payton's house and just gone, we can, yeah. But look, Stiddy's a good quarterback. What do you think about the whole Russell Wilson situation? Does it mean he's, like they're saying it's to prevent injury, but to me it means he's cut next year?
Well, it's the same thing with Derek Carr. He's guaranteed $39 million next year, no matter what. If he gets injured and cannot pass a physical by March 1st, I think it is, or 4th, they owe him another $37 million on top.
Why is that? Why is that?
Injury guarantees.
Right. Okay.
So they're doing the same thing with Derek Carr because they would have owed Carr that injury money if something happened. So he's definitely gone. They're just going to cut him after this year, and he's going to be a free agent. And some team's going to overpay for him. We'll see it happen. But
Atlanta.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's Minnesota. So, I hope you're right, Atlanta. I think our coaching staff and our team loves Kirk Cousins. I'm not sure our front office loves Kirk Cousins, but JJ just came out and really went to bat for Kirk the other day. So I think that helps get Kirk back into the building.
I think
JJ's extension
Kirk
done.
Could be there. Yeah.
But I don't know what you do moving forward, and I'm sure they have some kind of plan for quarterback. But what it says to me is they are done with the Russell Wilson experiment, and Sean Payton probably didn't even want Russell to begin with.
Yeah, I'm wondering what's happened with. So clearly something happened after that game, right? Where Sean Payton's gone fucking crazy at Russ, like during the game on the headset, going absolutely mental. And then I reckon something's happened in that week where Russell Wilson has pissed Sean Payton off, and we've not heard about it. So good on the Broncos, and they've just gone right. That's it. Then we're cutting you. Like we're done. Jared Stidham's not a bad guy to bring in. What do you make of? I mean, Sean Payton trying to make a go of it with Taysom Hill. What do you reckon of the Broncos trying to bring in Justin Fields? But can they put together a package to trade for anybody? They've given away all of their picks. They have no cap money
Now,
because of
I
dead
did
cap.
have a
It's
thought.
interesting.
I did have a thought, but who knows? I thought maybe at the end of the year, Sean Payton calls up his good buddy over there in Dallas and goes, "Hey, Jerry, you want that fourth back that you gave up? I mean, Trey Lance, send him over.
Trey
We'll give
Lance
you
will do
that
it.
fourth
Yeah.
back." And maybe I did think of that. Maybe he gives Jerry Jones, his good buddy, a call and see if they can work something out for like a Trey Lance, and then you ride with him or somebody like that, and then you draft a quarterback. Or maybe you bring in a Mac Jones, who's a lot like Drew Brees, just not, I'm not as accurate, but like style of quarterback. You grab a Mac Jones maybe from him, because I think New England's obviously done with Mac Jones. I'm not sure, but I'm sure they have a plan. I just can't foresee what their plan is, because you're never guaranteed to get a quarterback. You know what I mean? And there's not a
Derek
lot
Carr.
of free agent quarterbacks.
It'd be so interesting if it was Derek Carr
Yeah,
that they bring in.
Derek Carr seems to be proving everybody right instead of wrong, though.
Yeah, which is quite sad. Yeah, I like Derek Carr. And anyway, Russ. There's a few landing spots for Russ as well. You can have. So you've got teams like Atlanta, where I think they'd overpay for you. You've got teams like, I don't know. I could see him in Washington.
He's an upgrade at both
Definitely.
places. He's a fucking upgrade at both places.
Yeah. Even if he's not Russell Wilson, he's an upgrade. Like that contract has come down significantly. Or will come down significantly, especially because Russ is still making the money for that year as well. So Russ will be happy to cash in. So you've got the Commanders or the Giants would take him as well. Like there's plenty of places for Russell Wilson to go. Also, it doesn't mean Russell Wilson's out of the league. It just means at that money on his contract, he's out of Denver. That's what it means to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. His time in Denver is over. There is no more let's ride. It's let's ride out of town because we're done.
Yeah, we're done now. Let's see you later. I think this game, I'm going to take the Broncos in this one because the Broncos defense is far superior. I think the Chargers had their new coach bump last week, and when they didn't get it done against the Bills, Jeff has that defense playing much better than Brandon Staley, the Wonder Kid, though, which is pretty impressive. So we'll see what goes on there. It's funny that the Broncos have downgraded from Russell Wilson to Jared Stidham and still have the best quarterback in this matchup, though. Easton Stick has a few decent rushing yards in their game, but otherwise is no good. Yeah, I'm surprised that he's a backup quarterback in the a first call backup quarterback in the NFL.
I'm not sure he
I'm
will
surprised.
be after this year. I think,
No.
I think he might play better in practice than he does in real games, and they thought he was better than he was.
He looks against pressure. He looks terrified. I've never seen a quarterback look like they shit themselves when pressure is coming. So he's obviously not read the pressure, and then he just panics instantly as soon as the pressure comes, and you see him try and break the pocket immediately before looking at his first read, which is pretty wild. And obviously the Chargers have never the Chargers don't help him out at all, and the fact that there's injuries all over that Chargers team. Broncos bring loads of pressure. They'll win this game by 3.5. Who have the Broncos still got to play?
Because there was a time when Easton Stick was thought to be somebody who was going to come in and be a starting quarterback for somebody, and it just never happened.
Yeah. So interesting. Interesting guy. Like he can't handle pressure. He really can't. The move down to Jared Stidham actually doesn't hurt them that much
Maybe
because they play.
maybe Stidham's their plan
They're
until
like
they
bridge guy.
find somebody else,
Yeah.
right? Like,
yeah. Sean Payton's got a long run in that Broncos organization anyway. So
they have to eat like fucking 65 million or something crazy off of cutting over the next 2 years. So that's going to hurt their
Sean
cap.
Payton's. Yeah, so Sean Payton's got time, which is good, and you build everything up around Jared Stidham. If you find a backup quarterback on the market like Trey Lance, like a Cooper Rush kind of guy, like if you get your hands on Mac Jones, I like that pick. I didn't think of that beforehand. I really like that idea. Justin Fields as a Denver Bronco, maybe even try and get Taysom Hill out of New Orleans. Like, see what that kind of thing takes. Then you see what happens as the Broncos. But weirdly, the downgrade to Jaron Stidham, he's better than Easton Stick, and he might be better than Aiden O'Connell as well.
I heard people go, "Oh, he's going to get Drew Brees to come back and play." I was like, bro, I just watched an interview with Drew Brees where he said he literally has to play catch with his left hand with his son because he can no longer throw with his right arm.
Yeah, Drew Brees couldn't really throw with his right arm further than 15 meters down the field when he left the game. Like,
right. So, like, I mean, I heard him say though that injury fucked him up. Like, is not when he happened, but later on in life now that injuries become such a problem he can't even throw with his right arm anymore. And I'm like, oh, okay. A lot of that made sense. So
you'd have more of a chance with Tom Brady, like coming out, if that's the one that you want to pick.
Yeah.
You probably weirdly have more of a chance of Tony Romo coming out and still playing than Drew Brees.
That poor guy, like his back.
Oh shit, yeah.
So we have the final game is Sunday Night Football. No more Monday Night Football until the playoffs, which is weird, but that's how they do it. We have the Green Bay Packers traveling to Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are favored by 1 with rookie Jaron Hall starting the game. He looked good in the little bit we got to see him. And to be fair, he did only play, 1 drive, 2 drives, but he is 1-0 as a starter in the NFL.
Yeah. I like what I saw of Jaron Hall, and this wide receiver core can help any quarterback, really.
He's accurate.
All the Vikings,
which, you know me, that's my main thing I look at first, and he's accurate. So
when you have a good wide receiver core and a really good defense, again, there's a few defenses that are underrated in the NFL. I said the Chiefs earlier. The Vikings are the other most underrated defense in the NFL right now.
They are rated number 2 defense overall since week 6. If you're looking for weird stats, because you can make stats say crazy shit. But.
Yeah, you can make stats say crazy shit, but that's not that weird. Like a turnaround like that at this time in the season, like, isn't that weird? Like, okay, if we were in week 9 and people are saying like, oh, we've had the best defense for 3 weeks, it's like, oh, who have you played then? Like, that could be what's going on. But there's clearly been a change there where they around week 6, it's like the Cowboys since the bye have been on a tear, like offensively and things like that.
That's what I actually love about the Vikings, though. They saw a problem, even though it was a first year, and they're like, we're going to move on and get a new defensive guy in here. Like they didn't compound the problem by trying to be right. Do you know what I mean? And teams do that. They compound problems by trying to prove they were right.
Yeah. So Brian Flores, a great defense, goes against the Packers. All Jaron Hall has to do is not throw interceptions, and they'll win this game for me. The Packers are and if you want to go up against a defense that'll help you not throw interceptions, go up against this defense, because they'll do everything they can situationally to help you in the game.
Jair Alexander suspended by the Packers for that coin flip, so he's out as both teams are battling for the playoffs.
That's wild to me, right? Find the guy.
There's more to it. He has to be acting like Joey Asshole in the locker room too. Like, there's no way you suspend one of the one of the it's so hard to even bring it out of my mouth. One of the best corners in the league in Jair, because he's a Packer. I have a hard time even fucking saying it, but he is.
He shut down JJ as well.
Yeah, they both have games against each other where he shut him down and then JJ went off for like 137 or whatever. But like he is one of the best corners, like man-to-man corners in the NFL. And you just suspended him for going out for the coin toss when he wasn't picked to go out for the coin toss. And yes, he almost fucked it up by saying we want to be on defense instead of we want to defer. But is that really like, this is the NFL? Guys do wild shit and never get suspended. So to me, there has to be more to what happened.
Yeah, well, he made himself a captain, right? He made himself a captain.
He just decided to walk out there with them because he's from Charlotte.
Yeah, so he was refused the captaincy though, because most of the time, apparently, if you're from a place and you go and you want to be the captain for that time where you're from a place, they usually say yes. And the Packers said no. It's also one of their premium players who are usually captains as well. Like, he's got to be a shitty leader. Like, you're so worried about him being a captain for one game in his hometown. And it's not like you're playing anybody decent. You're playing against the worst team in the NFL.
He's either their best or their second best defensive player, too. Like, because you can argue Douglas or him, whatever you want to argue.
Rashawn Gary.
Douglas, but like, I meant Gary and Douglas. I said Rasul Douglas because they just got rid of him. But like, but you could argue that one of those two. But like, you're literally gonna bench one of your best players on your team over the coin toss.
Yeah, in what is effectively a playoff game with a division rival.
Yeah, like the Vikings and the Packers are all in playoff mode right now because you got to win to get in, right? So
yeah, you guys are all going to win all the way
Seattle
through.
To fucking lose.
Yeah, you guys are all winning in, not winning in, but win to get to even be at the table.
You got to win to even have a shot, though, and so it's really weird to me that he's suspended. That was one of the weird because when I read that he was suspended, and then I'm reading the article and I'm like, okay, when are you going to get to the point why he was suspended? And then the article was over, and I'm like, wait, did this motherfucker really get suspended over a coin toss? So like, I've been really busy this week, so I didn't get to watch Pat McAfee until like 10 o'clock last night. And they get to it, and Ty Schmidt's talking about it, and they're talking about it. And I'm like, all right, so where's the suspension part? Where's the, like, he went out for the coin toss. Why is there a suspension, even though he wasn't supposed to? And it literally, that's why he's suspended. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I've been watching football since I was like fucking 4. You know what I mean? I've been watching football for over 40 years. This is wild.
Yeah. I think it's weakness of coaching. Personally, I think if you've got to do that, I think if you've got to do that, then you don't have confidence in your own leadership and things like that. I worry.
I've been asking all year, can LaFleur coach without Rodgers? I don't know the answer. I've just been asking the question.
Yeah, because obviously with Aaron Rodgers, that personality obviously run the front office up the wrong way, and they end up shitting on Rodgers and making the whole situation very toxic. And
I felt like that got very personal between Rodgers and Gutekunst.
Yeah.
Like not LaFleur, but Gutekunst and Rodgers. And it makes me wonder, is Gutekunst petty?
Yeah, I think.
Is he spiteful? Like, so. Why is your best? And I love that Alexander got suspended. Don't get me wrong. Like, good. He can't cover JJ. Fucking great.
Yeah.
Love that. But, like, what makes you go through? And Packer fans are losing their fucking minds, which I don't blame them. Because if it's literally just this, your front office is fucked. If there's more to it, then the fans don't know. And I don't want to use they have a right to know, because you don't have a right to know shit. But if you wanted to make it land a little better, you might want to let the fans know of your team that there's a little more to this than you believe. And does this mean they try to trade him in the offseason now? Because, like, has it gone so far that they're suspending him over some petty shit? Because I can see you being irate that he went out there because he didn't have permission and he almost fucked up the call. Mm-hmm. But if that was CeeDee Lamb, if that was JJ, if that was Christian McCaffrey, if that was anybody worth a shit, we wouldn't even have known he wasn't a captain. They would have never said a fucking word. We'd have just went on like he was supposed to be out there, had to talk about it in private. You know what I mean? Nobody would have leaked that shit. But they made it a big deal by suspending him. I would have never known he wasn't supposed to be out there. None of us would have if they wouldn't have leaked that shit.
Yeah, and obviously there's media outlets that would know. Like they hire people to know those things. Like NFL insiders would know that shit.
NFL lies
But
all
it
the
wouldn't have
time. All they
mattered.
gotta say is at the last minute we've remembered he was from fucking
Charlotte
and sent him out there. Like you could lie. Like NFL
and it doesn't
lie all the time.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. It also wouldn't have mattered if it didn't end up in a suspension either. So like, oh, it didn't come of anything. Like it just becomes a funny anecdote of something that once happened in the NFL. But now you're putting your playoff future on the line with a guy who has, although he's been burnt by JJ, also he has covered JJ in Jaron Hall's game. You know,
he covered AJ Brown. Like the dude has done it against some of the top fucking receivers. Like it kills me to say it, but he's literally a top fucking I don't know where without going through a list, but he is literally a top corner in the NFL, and he's definitely a top 5 man-to-man corner in the NFL.
Yeah, and the Packers need this game, and I think they've done nothing but help the Vikings with that entirely. And with the rhetoric around their defensive coordinator and the fact that he's not very good either, it's not going to help. This is the kind of team that you want to go up against if you're Jaron Hall, and all you need to do is not throw interceptions.
Yes, I would feel a lot better, like I said, if TJ Hawkinson was there, because it's always great to have a big tight end that can do some stuff. But Johnny Munt's not the worst, and Oliver catches way better than people give him credit for, which is funny to me because coming out of college, Oliver was known as a receiving tight end. He goes to Baltimore, becomes this really great blocking tight end, and everybody forgets that he can actually catch the fucking ball.
Yeah, so this is kind of happened to Freiermuth, where Freiermuth is an excellent blocker, and then that means that he can't be a receiving tight end. No,
Kittle's amazing at both. Kittle is amazing at both. Why can't it So, I don't understand it so much, but all right. We made it through. I'm going to clip out and upload just the picks for everybody too. So if you already watched this, you watched the whole show, but you can let somebody else know if you're watching. I'm going to split the show. It's going to be the full one, and I'm going to put just our picks for week 17 out also as a second video.
Yeah, so you don't have to watch 2 hours and 15 minutes of us trying to get your betting picks ready. Thank you, everybody, if you have been watching all the way through. I've noticed we've got some people in the views who have watched all the way through, so thank you for that.
Hey, Moose has rode some of our picks to some money too. He's told me.
Yeah, so good for him. Maybe we should start betting on our own picks, Jay. But
my wife always tells me if we didn't have to go to the casino, because in Wisconsin, for some reason, it's just Wisconsin.
Yeah.
You have to be in the casino where like Moose can sit on his couch in Arizona and just bet. She always told me she would already bet my picks and not tell me if
just so you don't have a heart attack when there's money on the line.
So it didn't influence me. And then just at the end of the year go, this is how much we've made or lost.
Oh, well, I think year.
Huh?
1 year, let's start the year with £50 or dollars or whatever each and just bet through and just see where we're at.
I thought even to be funny, even if you just bet $1 per game or $10 per game, like whatever, see what happens, right? And just see what it comes out. It would be actually easier to track our picks because 1 or 2 weeks of me missing my pick count and it fucks me up for the whole year. Whereas if we were gambling it, all of our shit would be on that app.
Yeah, we need to take better track of the picks that we've actually made as well next year. Anyway, all New Year's resolutions now. We'll talk about it in the off season. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Please do like and subscribe on whatever platform you're looking at, and give us a share. We always really appreciate your support.
All right. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.